I love those records in the background. Beautiful.
Aren't they great? Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. I'm Harper LeBerl along with Bob Case. Our special guest today is outside of the athletic realm. As many of you know, we've had football, basketball, baseball players. We've had hockey. We've talked about all kinds of different sports. Today, we're going to go down a different road. We're going to talk about the entertainment world. And in some cases, this is going to correlate with Frank Stallone and his ability from a boxing and a sports perspective. We'll touch on that a little bit. But for obvious reasons, this man, he's a singer, he's a songwriter, he's an entertainer. You know and recognize him for so many different reasons. And Bob Case, I am just so welcoming in terms of a different chapter for 100 Yards of Football, a different chapter for the sports page with Bob Case. We get a guy that has minimal athletic, but gosh, from an entertainment standpoint, everybody knows who he is. Bob, thank you so much for bringing Frank on here today.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Frank, it's an honor to have you on here. And I just got to tell you, I could spend the whole show talking about Frank, but I'm going to give him a brief. I met Frank, I would guess 35 years ago at Wild Card Boxing Gym in Hollywood, Freddie Roach's gym. Yeah. And my buddy Irish McAfoley worked for Freddie. And I remember I saw, I recognized him right away, Frank Stallone, you know, actor, singer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then I started listening to him talk to Mac about boxing, and I go, oh, my God, I couldn't believe. I mean, one thing I know is boxing, okay? That's one thing I know. Baseball and boxing, I know. This guy, I was talking to the Hall of Fame matchmaker, Bruce Trampler, the other day about him, and he agreed with me. I said he's as knowledgeable as anybody I've ever talked to in the boxing for the history of the sport. And he's not only knows it all, he's met 90% of these guys. He's interviewed them back in the early days, you know, guys that were like rock stars, you know, Jack Dempsey and this guy and that guy and all these early world champions, you know, Ike Williams. He's been around them all. Frank Sinatra, everybody, you know. So it's like so sure, he's a great singer and an actor, and you know everybody knows him from the Rocky movies and the John Travolta stuff and all the stuff. But I know him from boxing, and like I said, he's probably one you could call him a GOAT as far as the knowledge of the sport. And you know, and then I think what a well-rounded guy. You know, a lot of actors. I think the only actor I really knew that knew boxing was Ryan O'Neal. He worked in it for a while, and he knew the sport, but not like Frank Stallone. No, he knew it good. He got Ring Magazine every week. He knew it all the time. We talk about it all the time. He managed Hedgeman Lewis. But this guy is the number one guy I've ever talked to. That's why I thought we're a sports show. Sure, he's an entertainer, an actor, a singer. Great. What a fabulous life he's had, too. And I watched the other day, and a lot of friends of mine have watched this called Stallone, Frank, that is, on Amazon. A great documentary on his whole life.
You did watch it. Okay.
Great. Yeah, it was great. I loved it. It was great. There's got Schwarzenegger, Billy D. Williams, everybody talking about him. You know, it's just fantastic. And it shows him as a little kid and playing the piano and it was just a tremendous documentary. So that's enough. I could go on for another half hour talking about this guy. But and the other thing I want to say, I have never heard a negative word about him from anybody. And I managed Mickey Rooney, so I was around Hollywood for a long time.
Yeah.
From any acting, sports, everybody likes him. Everybody. They say.
Well, that's nice.
And then the last thing I'm going to say, we went to lunch in Beverly Hills maybe 6 months, a year ago. I don't know when it was. At some hotel in Beverly Hills.
Peninsula,
yeah. I was entertained. I could still be eating lunch there. It was like, you know, usually you go to lunch and it's like kissing your sister. You're bored. This was the most entertaining lunch I ever had. So anyway,
we had a lot of fun.
I want you to entertain me some more today, Frank. So go for it.
All right, Bob. Well, you know, it's funny. I'm kind of like the Rain Man of boxing. You know, it's just like information that some people. I mean, I've sat and talked with like our dear late friend McAfoley. And people that are in the boxing thing, they go, what are you guys talking about? I mean, we bring up fighters, you know, Zulu Kid. I mean, all these fighters from different eras, from like the 1890s into the modern times. And we just, and as a matter of fact, I just did an interview this morning on Ray Mancini, dear friend of mine, his radio show. And we talked about, there's certain people you can talk to things about, like you with baseball or the other sports. You can go real deep into it. I mean, some people in boxing, they as far back as they go is like, Sweet Pea Whitaker or De La Hoya. They don't really know the history of it. And to me, what made boxing interesting are the backstories, not so much the fights. The fights are great, but the backstories. Most of these kids came from poverty. Their parents came over on the boat. Most of them were sons of immigrants, and they had no money. And a lot of them fought to put some food on the table for their family. People in the turn of the century had large families, and in cold water flats in New York and major cities. So the backstories are great. I mean, how courageous guys would fight, schedule 45 round, 3-minute round fights. I mean, think about that. 3 times 45 and a 45-minute, a rest between each round. So you're in the ring over 2.5 hours if the fight went that long. They used to call them finished fights. And, people get it confused with like the London prize rules, where like in the early days, if you got knocked down, that was considered a round. So the round could go 15 minutes. It could go 4 seconds, And then when the Marquis of Queensberry rules came in, it was just 3-minute rounds, 1-minute rest. But they still, even those, some of them went 60 rounds. It depends, And it's just, and what amazes me now, you have like physical therapists there, sports coordinators for these fighters. They take 8 weeks of a training camp. In those days, they'd fight 4 times a week, in the 1910s. I mean, battling Levinsky on New Year's Day, I think 1914, fought 3 main events in 3 different cities on New Year's Day. So he fought 10. He fought 32 rounds in one day, 10 rounds in Brooklyn, 12 rounds in Connecticut, and 10 rounds, I think, in Manhattan. In one day, 32 rounds in one. So that means he got on a train. They said he got on a train, put like a top coat on, still had his trunks on, and took a train from Manhattan to Brooklyn. And then after that fight, he went to Connecticut and had another fight, a 12-round fight. I mean, that's what I'm saying. These guys were double tough. It's like in baseball, when you think about it, playing with a dead ball, wearing a flannel uniform. They used the ball for 2 innings, no batting helmets, no gloves, no sunglasses. I mean, so these guys were tough. I mean, today, yeah, they always say bigger, faster. Yeah, but let a football player wear the same uniform Red Grange wore and see how brave they are about, spearing with your head. Be a little different, I mean, so these guys were tough. I mean, people died in football, in the turn of the century. And in boxing, like they all wore the same weight gloves. A heavyweight, they wore Saul Levinson 5-ounce horsehair gloves. All of them did. I have a bunch of them hanging right here. They look like they'd be considered like bag gloves now. And I interviewed a few fighters, like my friend Joe Burrell, who had like 300 fights, started in 1909. And he said, yeah, I mean, mouth guards were illegal. You wore these 4.5, 5-ounce gloves, and they wrapped their hands. Sometimes they used black electrical tape. And these gloves, after a few rounds, when, from the sweat, it'd be like all knuckles. And he said, that's why he worked on defense. It was like getting hit with a blackjack. So you can imagine a 210-pound guy hitting you with those gloves like Jack Dempsey. But flyweights wore the same gloves. They all wore the same gloves, Saul Levinson gloves or Spalding made gloves and things like that. So imagine if you went in with Ernie Shavers with 5-ounce horsehair gloves without a mouth guard and got clipped. Mouth guards were illegal, Bob. They put a piece of cotton in their mouth, an orange peel. So imagine if you had like a crooked tooth there and you got hit in the mouth with those gloves. That's why if you look at some of the old fighters, they got mashed in lips and stuff like that, scars, because they bite their tongue and stuff. So they were brutal. It was a brutal sport. Maybe it wasn't as clever. No, there were some guys that were like that. Benny Leonard was very clever, Panama Brown. But a lot of these guys were just bruisers, man. They would just fight, and they didn't stop fights those days. You know, there was 2 ropes. That's it. Now you got turnbuckles and padding. They had 2 ropes and a not too padded canvas. No padding in the corners, and they would fight. It's amazing.
Yeah, a couple of 4x4s that are holding things.
Yeah, exactly.
Frank, it's real obvious. One of the great compliments I ever got was one of my coaches said when I was with the Eagles, he said, "Harper, you're a student of the game," because I asked him a couple of questions about a specific move and a route that I was supposed to do.
Uh-huh.
And he called me that for some of the guys wouldn't even bring a notebook in, but Frank, when did you become a student of boxing? Because you obviously you got to go back and read and observe.
Oh, I have a whole library.
Yeah, thank you. When did that begin for you? When did your passion for the sport start?
We used to watch the fights, the Gillette.
Friday Night Fight, right?
Yeah, Friday Night Fights, yeah. Gillette, black and white. My brother and I used to watch them. I mean, it was very popular, like Floyd Patterson, Rocky Marciano. Even though I was little, I mean, Floyd Patterson, Gene Fulmer, Basilio. That was probably when I kind of got into it. I started collecting and really becoming a student of the history of it. I'd say 51 years ago, 1974, 75.
Wow.
And I just, because my brother was doing Rocky they hadn't come out yet.
Right.
And it just tickled my fancy. And the first book I bought, and I still think it's one of the greatest boxing books ever written, by Peter Heller, called In This Corner, where he interviews fighters from 1910 into the 1960s. I mean, Gunboat Smith. I mean, these guys that fought in that era earlier, and these were taped interviews of these fighters. And so you get a sneak peek. And there's another great book about John L. Sullivan and his times. And then there's another one called John L. Sullivan Ringside, which are excerpts from reporters, newspaper guys, watching John L. Sullivan fight. And they said, all the pictures you see of John L. Sullivan, he's got a big belly, he's got a mustache. But when he was young, that was near the end of his career. When he was young, for that time, he was 5'10.5" and 210 pounds, which was a massive guy then.
Yeah.
Average guy was 5'6", 130 pounds. Just go to a Civil War museum. Look at the jackets are like size 32. People were smaller then. So he was a massively big, muscular guy, and he was lightning fast, and he was aggressive. And they said in the old Madison Square Garden that people up in the seats could hear his punches, and they sounded like gunshots. I mean, the funny thing is they always hook him up with bare knuckle fights, but he only had 3 bare knuckle fights. He hated them because you'd break your hands, and and they wore spiked shoes because they fought on the turf. Guy'd step on your foot, get a spike through your foot. So he didn't like them. He liked wearing the gloves, the padded mitts, because I mean those bare knuckle fights were brutal because you could throw a guy. So I'm saying, one round. I mean, when he fought Jake Kilrain and all these guys, they were like 3 hours. Some of those fights, they would just go on until they throw the sponge in, or something like that. They would give them a shot of brandy in between the rounds. So these were like, and it was outlawed too. So they'd find a patch of somewhere, and it was all like hush hush. And they would get these guys, and they just set up a makeshift ring, and there you go.
How does he have time with all the other things he's done in his life?
Kidding.
That's. I mean,
same with you, Bob. How do you have the time? You know everybody. I mean, like every sport.
That's
everybody.
I'm not a musician. I'm not an actor. I don't do. I mean, you do. You're like the guy, the beer commercial guy. What's the most amazing man or whatever it was.
Oh, the world's most interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the guy knows. I mean, to know boxing at this level, you would have to spend your whole life like Hank Kaplan. There was a guy in Florida. His whole life for this stuff. But he wasn't a singer. He wasn't an entertainer. And this guy's boxed. I watched him knock out Geraldo Rivera. It was hilarious.
Well, what's funny? I knew Hank Kaplan very well. I knew Harry Schaefer very well. My friend Robert Carson. And they were guys, we'd have a few drinks, seriously, and stay on the phone for 2.5 hours talking about people no one ever heard of. There was, what's his name? There was one fighter, Blink McCluskey. He had one eye. They called him Blink McCluskey. He had like 200 fights. And they'd say this is like turn of the century guy, he would get into the ring and his corner guy would take out his glass eye and put it in his top pocket and he'd go out there and fight. Can you imagine that today? Taking someone's glass eye out and putting it in your corner jacket.
And my favorite, how about him? He learned to fight because his brother would knock the crap out of him when he was a kid. I heard now he threw a chicken leg at him and the bone stuck in his head, which is hilarious. But, it was a drumstick. It was a drum pedal. We had one of these toy drum sets for Christmas. They threw it across me, the drum pedal, the banger, and stuck in my head. And my parents went ballistic. Yeah, he used to torture me. But you know what? I was a fairly affable guy. I think I only got maybe 2 street fights in my life. I wasn't into that. A lot of guys were bullies and, stuff like that. So I was not like a lot of guys. You talked about Barney Ross being a Jew in Chicago. He said, I used to have a fight going to school and a fight coming home from school almost every day. So you're talking like in the early 20s. So a lot of these guys, because neighborhoods were kind of sequestered, different. Like you'd have the Jewish neighborhood, the Irish neighborhood, the Italian neighborhood, the Polish neighborhood. And, and you would get picked on. Like, these kids were like street urchins, like mugs, So these guys said, why should I be fighting for free? I can make some dough. So that's a lot of them. That's how they became fighters, And so I didn't have that. And Sherry Leonard, I don't think I ever had a street fight in my life. But my friend goes, well, how would he do in a street fight? I said, he would probably knock you out in 3 seconds. Yeah. Okay. It's not, he would just like a hit. You wouldn't even know it's coming. You know what I mean? But some people just never chose to get in street fights. They hone their skills in the ring and things like that. Like Billy Martin was a bully, but realistically, Reggie Jackson would have broken him in half. 100%. He was a sucker puncher. He sucker punched people.
Yeah. When you look at Reggie Jackson, he was a fucking all-American like football player too. Yeah. He was a great athlete, but he was just maintaining that when Billy Martin would do this. But if Billy Martin did that to someone like Rocky Graziano, he'd be picking his teeth out of the sidewalk. He did it. He picked it. He wouldn't do that to Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan would pick him up and break him in half.
Hey, Frank, Reggie's a friend of mine. We've had him on our show here, and you know what?
Reggie's great.
That incident, he said, Bob, if you watch that incident, I took my glasses off. And he said, if Billy Martin, may God strike me dead, he told me this. He said, if Billy Martin had hit me, he said, you wouldn't know who Reggie Jackson is because I'd be serving the rest of my life in prison. And that's right. So,
no, Reggie, I remember I met him on the Regis show back in the green room, and he was very affable, really nice guy, very articulate and really nice guy, And I said, this is one of this is one of the great Yankees of all time. You're talking about Reggie, man. And, but he was a gentleman. And so Billy Martin should be lucky some of those players didn't turn on him. If he would talk like that to Bob Gibson, he'd be picking himself up off the ground. He would never do it. 100%. Or Drysdale or Sal Magley, they would knock them out in 1 second.
The barber.
The barber. Yeah, so he picked, what a great name. They don't have names like that anymore. Sal the Barber Magley. They go, why did they call him the barber? He said, because he'd give you a close shave. Yeah. He'd throw at you. He's a great pitcher.
Yeah.
Frank, with some of your passion, obviously, and then your love for the sport itself, do you get to the point, like when I talk with other guys that are football players, I'll say, hey, look at this kid. Watch his feet. Look at the way he moves. Gosh, he stays low. He really has some great power, and he drives through if he's a lineman. Look at how he turns his head so quickly to get the ball in his eyes and be able to go catch it and take it away from other people. Do you look at form? Do you look at the way that a guy is able to jab? Do you look at certain techniques that one guy has? Like if you were a horse guy, you could tell by just watching the horse go up to the gate. You know, that one right there, that secretariat, there's something special about that one. Do you see that same type of thing in some of the fighters that you look at?
Oh yeah. Well, if you look at like a Gene Tunney was a beautiful boxer, because if you think he only had one loss in his whole career, and he was like movie star handsome, and he fought some of the toughest guys around, Jack Dempsey, Harry Greb, you know, numerous times. Yeah, you look at that. I remember when I was a kid boxing in the amateurs, one of the coaches said, if you don't have a left hand, if you don't have a jab, you're out of the game, because it's the most important punch in boxing, because it sets everything up. If you have a great jab, like Joe Louis or Ali or Larry Holmes, it sets up everything, because for that moment, when that jab's in your face, for that moment, you're blind. And then something like the old 1-2, you don't see it coming. So
Larry Holmes can knock you out with a jab, remember?
Oh, Larry Holmes would rip your head off with a jab.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But it's like a ramrod. Joe Louis had that, and Duran had that. They just, Leonard, Hearns, they set it all up with the left hand. So you can tell by just watching them, are they calm? Like James Toney, very relaxed in the ring. He's more comfortable in the ring than he is on the street. He's just very relaxed. He doesn't get rattled, and eventually he'll just pick you apart. But that's the thing when they say don't come in fighting mad. Don't come into the fight mad, because then you lose your cool and you expend energy. Like Ali was very relaxed in the ring. Marvin Hagler, they just flowed with they just went with the flow. And some people are very jumpy and stuff, and that expends a lot of energy. Huh?
Hey, Frank, Freddie Roach and McAfoley both said the hardest thing to teach a fighter, they used to say a guy can have 20 pro fights and they yell, relax. You know what Macca said? He said, if I take a bullet and throw it at you, it hits your chest and bounces off. If I shoot you, it goes right through you and kills you.
That's right.
And when you're relaxed, your hands move like this, boom, boom, boom. When you're tensed up, that's the worst thing. I'm going to kick his ass. The worst thing you can do.
Well, Bob, they say speed kills, and Jimmy McLarnin, who was one of the great
another guy champions. He knew them all. He knew Jimmy McLarnin.
They called him the baby space assassin because he looked like a little Irish altar boy. He talked like this. He had a little bit. He's from Belfast, but he grew up in Vancouver, so he had a bit of the Irish brogue, or if it's called a brogue, I think that's more Scottish. And he said, and I looked at the guy. The guy fought 14 world champions, fought everybody. And we used to go. Do you remember the Cauliflower Alley Club, the old spaghetti factory on Sunset? Yeah.
But we used to have luncheons. We had luncheons there.
Yeah, but once every 2 weeks, Mike Mazurki, who he is, the actor, they would have the Cauliflower Alley Club, and all these old fighters. I mean, guys that fought in 1909 that were older guys. I mean, Mushy Callahan, Jimmy McLarnin, Gorilla Jones, and a lot of old champions would get together with their wives, and they'd have a luncheon.
Would go. Bobby Chacon would go.
Bobby Chacon, they all were there. Yeah. And, Gene LaBelle, all those guys would go there, right? And Jimmy McLarnin goes, I just don't understand these boys. If I took a baseball and threw it at your head, what would you do? I said, well, I'd move my head. He goes, exactly. Why don't you move your goddamn head? These guys just stand there. If something comes at you, move your head. And he told me, he said, when Pop Foster started training him when he was like 12, he goes, for the first year, all we worked on was defense. He says, move your goddamn head. Don't stand there and get hit. Hit the other guy. And so that is the art. Like I was saying when I interviewed you, Joe Burrell, when you're fighting with loaded gloves that are 4 ounces, it hurts. Move your head. In those days, you see his fighter, they would parry shots, move like Jack Johnson. Who wants to get hit like that? You know what I mean? He goes, you don't win a fight getting hit. The guy who's got a great chin. Yeah. And he ends up cutting paper dolls in a corner in some sanitarium. So they get, they used to call him slap happy. That guy's a little slap happy because he got hit too much. Yeah, well, they call it punch drunk, slap happy, stuff like that. And like you were saying, Harper, there's a skill to it, like in football. You can't learn to be Chuck Bednarik. He was an animal. Concrete Charlie. You ever see his hands? Every finger was broken.
Oh, they didn't go straight. They went anywhere but that. Go ahead.
But he was just what they call like country strong, like Bob Lilly, like guys like Matuzak. They're just strong. They're built for this sport. They're like mastodons. Heavy boned, like guys like what was his name? Oh, he's Bronco Nagurski. Yeah. Look at his head. His head's like this big like Bohemian or Hungarian or Polish. They said this guy would just run you over, like Mike Allstat. Remember?
Yeah.
He just run you over. They didn't, or like John Riggins. They just like pile drive you. I used to love watching football. The old Packers. Jim Taylor, the fullback.
Oh, the best.
Great. I mean, I was so upset that they got rid. The fullback is now a blocker. In the day, the fullback was just as popular as the quarterback because he was the pile driver. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All the tough yards went through them. If you don't mind me, I'll interrupt real quick just to say, go look at some of the early film of O.J. Simpson in the Buffalo Bills uniform. His head doesn't fit in his helmet.
His head is huge.
Look right. He's got like a size 9 noggin. Now, I know nobody wants to talk about him anymore, but I'm just saying, as good as he was in the 68, 69 SC Bruin game and gets into the, 73, 74, right about the time, 72, he breaks the record, 2,000 yards, just a massive, big guy for his size. Dick Butkus was a big guy for his size in his era. No wonder.
But he'd be big. Dick Butkus would be big now as a defensive guy.
He's
a lot
very
of those
average.
guys are like 206.
Right.
Like Fred. What's his name?
Fred Dreyer.
Dreyer. He said, "Yeah, I was about 211." Like Jack Lambert, they weren't that heavy.
He was,
but they were like sinewy, like an octopus. But they were strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Frank mentioned Jim Taylor. I just got to tell you this one thing. One of my favorite things I ever saw. Bart Starr hands the ball to Jim Taylor on the 7-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
He's got an opening that I could run through.
Mm-hmm.
He could go right into the end zone. The 7. What did he do? He veered off.
Goes through the guys
and knocked 2 guys down, and then went in.
Well, it's like when Larry Zonka would run. He had the open field, but you see defensemen coming after him, and he would go into him and give him a flipper and knock him out. Yeah, but these guys were like beasts. You know what I mean? And the thing is, they had like a horseshoe here and one bar, and the quarterbacks used to get smashed. Oh, they used to get. You saw the old games. These guys would come in and try to take that quarterback. Like, they were talking to Deacon Jones. They said, "Deke, do you think you can play in today's era?" He goes, "Yeah, if I could go upside your head." Remember, he'd do the ear slap?
Yeah.
He was 6'5". He was 260 pounds. He wasn't small. He was big. But look at some of the defense guys now. They're not that big. Lawrence Taylor was like 230, 225. Ray Lewis. I mean, when you look at Dick Butkus, he was like 240, 250 maybe, but he was fast. And the thing was, he was mean. So was Jack Lambert. They were mean. They would hurt you when they get in there.
He pulled his teeth out.
Yeah, he'd take his teeth out. You look at him, but he was almost like Bob. If you look at Lambert, when you hear him talk, he's extremely articulate, but on the field, he was like a Cro-Magnon. I mean, he was scary looking. It's like, there's the Jack Lambert outside the field at the Hall of Fame talking, well, I like that. And then there's a guy, it's like what's his name from Bob Gibson, kind of high voice, very articulate, talk like that. But on the pitching mound, he'd kill you. Yeah. If you disrespected him, they said, please, who was saying, if you hit off Bob, do not run to first base and do any that stuff. Because I'm going to get hit.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay for your sins. And Don Drysdale, same way. He would hit you.
Absolutely.
They would throw at you, man. And,
and
no
Harper, he could imitate he could have been a Rich Little. I was watching this documentary, Stallone, Frank, that is,
Yeah.
and his imitation of his brother. I have never heard anything like. I mean, just give us a couple. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, you know, when he talks, it's like, "Hey, brother," you know, and yeah, like Sly, you know, talks like. But he doesn't talk like Rocky. He has a deep voice, but he doesn't like go, "Hey, no." I mean, he's acting, you know.
Yeah.
It's like Boris Karloff didn't talk like Frankenstein, grunt. You know, I mean, it's an acting part. But you know what's funny? But when you see like Bob Gibson had kind of a high pitched voice, so did Johnny Weissmuller, kind of a high voice. Jack Dempsey didn't have a deep voice. All right, boys, we'll go out there. But man, I said, but you wouldn't want to mess with those guys. They were, but they're all gentlemen. Like I remember I met Jack Dempsey a few times. Outside the ring, they were just affable. I mean, did you ever go to his restaurant on Broadway? Bob?
Oh yeah.
Remember
the story about some guys jumping him when he was 70-something years old in the alley?
Put them both out, knocked them cold. He was coming out. He was getting a cab, and it was like in the middle of winter. I think it was snow on the ground. And of course, he had a hat on and glasses. He was like 74. They went. Two guys tried to roll him. And he just boom, boom, out, laid out in the snow. Same thing happened with the great lightweight champion, Battling Nelson. He was like 67 years. He had 2 cauliflower ears. I mean, they called him, Jack London called Battling Nelson the abysmal brute. He was a Cro-Magnon. They did a report. They go, I don't understand. He wanted to fight 45 rounds because he knows he could make it. Most guys couldn't. Yeah. And he would just beat you. He didn't care if you were black, Chinese. He fought anybody at the turn of the century. And he was a Cro-Magnon. And they said his skull was abnormally thick. He had a heartbeat like 50 beats, almost like a dead person.
Oh my gosh.
So like Henry Armstrong had the same thing. He had the shadow box 14 rounds before the fight because he'd never get started because he had such a slow heartbeat. So that's why he could fight like that. And that's why they called him Homicide Hank or Harry Greb. They just didn't get tired while you're sitting there going, now these guys, 8 rounds, 10 rounds, they're gassed. Right. I have a film of Battling Nelson fighting Ad Walgast. I actually have the gloves from that fight. World Championship fight, lightweight fight, February 1910 in Point Richmond, California, which is a crap hole now and then. It rained for 2 days. There was mud all over the place. Breeze was coming off the water, so it was kind of chilly. Fight starts at like 3 in the afternoon. 45 rounds scheduled fight. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
You look at the film, it's starting to get like dark and they're still fighting. Ad Walgast stopped him in the 40th round. But in between the rounds, they didn't have round girls. They just had some guy with a derby and a cigar sticking out his mouth, walking around. And you can see one guy walking around 32. They run out of the corner. They don't walk out of the corner. It's like they right after the round, they'll like just go back to the corner, sit there, and guys like fanning them, but and then like the next round they come running out. That's 32 rounds. So that's almost like fighting 3 main events at that point.
Yeah.
So the conditioning they didn't have conditioning coaches, but they fought so often they never really got out of shape. They kind of always stayed because in those days there was no TV or radio. You didn't have video to see how the guy fights. They say, well, you're fighting this guy. All right. They said they don't even ask who they were fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go, what? I heard the guy, I'll figure it out in the ring.
No prep.
And so they could adjust. Now you got videos, you got guys smiling. They might say, well, I heard the guy punch. He goes, well, we'll find out. And they come back in the corner and go, yeah, that guy can punch. So now I got to change. So that's what I'm saying. They could adjust to the fight as it's going on because they didn't have any reference to go by. You know what I mean? You just maybe word and mouth or something. Oh, the guy's a good puncher. So Ad Walgast stopped him in the 40th round. Now,
unbelievable.
Battling Nelson, both his ears had exploded. He had cauliflower ears. His face was unrecognizable. He had bruises all over his body. Okay, even the hardened people of 1910, people in that era were that pioneer stock. They didn't stop fights. They in the audience were saying, "Stop the fight! Stop the fight!" Eddie Smith stops the fight. Battling Nelson wants to give him a beating. He couldn't even lift his arms. He goes, "What are you stopping it for? I still got something in me." He couldn't even lift his arms. His face was a pulp. You couldn't see his eyes, jaw broken, cut lacerations on his body. And he never forgave Ed Smith. Matter of fact, I have a letter that Battling Nelson wrote. As he's writing the letter, he's typing, he goes, he goes, Ed Smith is a four-flushing fink. He hated him because he stopped the fight. And while he's writing, typing the letter, he goes, hold on, there's some gunshots. There was a shootout in the office while he's typing the letter. He mentions, but he never forgave Ed Smith. It just shows you how tough they were. They would have stopped that fight 30 rounds ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like football. Look at hockey players. Get their teeth knocked out in the game or get hit with the stick. They don't want to get taken out of the game.
They don't miss
guys
a
like
shift.
Gordie Howe, they want to get back in there and hurt you.
They don't miss a shift. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Hockey is the last of that sports where they like these tough, like French Canadians, they don't want to get taken out of the game. They get their teeth knocked out.
They're holding them in their hands, and they give them to the trainer, and he'll take care of it when the game's over.
Yeah, but they get pissed
after the game. We'll go see the dentist later.
You know, Bob, I remember I saw the Washington Ramblers, I think 1959 with my father, hockey game. No helmets, nothing.
Wow.
The guys had like Brill cream in their hair, like very, very clean cut. And these guys are getting banged and hit with sticks and, getting run over by skates. They're tough guys, man. I'll tell you, they're last of the real. I think football is still tough. I think it's gotten a little soft. I would say 90% of the linemen could not play 60-minute football. No way. At 330 pounds, you're not going to chase a receiver down the field 50 yards.
Go both ways, Frank. They went both ways in the old days.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you had to know the defensive playbook and the offensive playbook, but you had to be quick. Chuck Bednarik, I think, was the last guy to play 60-minute football both ways.
Yeah.
So, Bob, you had to be – I mean, these guys are 330 pounds. They're good for like 10 yards, 15 yards, the offensive guys. They can never chase a guy like, what was the guy? What was this? Oh, the greatest. The guy played for Detroit.
Barry Sanders.
Yeah, you could never chase him down the field. And here's a guy who's on the lousiest team in the league. Imagine if Barry Sanders played for the Cowboys. Emmitt Smith wouldn't be playing. Yeah. I guarantee you that.
100% correct. 100%.
Guarantee you.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Slinging Sammy Ball. Not only did he play offense and defense, he was the kicker.
Bob Waterfield. Remember Bob Waterfield? He kicked extra points. He kicked goals. He played defense, and he was the quarterback.
That's what I'm saying. There's a certain thing, and I get in fights all the time. Well, today's boxers, I said, wait a second, man. What? You're fighting a guy with 18 fights. What happens if you go in the ring with Fritzy Zivic and this corner with a record of 250 and 11 with 60 knockouts? It's a big difference. Or Sugar Ray Robinson, 201 fights with 102 knockouts. Hello.
How many did he win in a row, Frank? He won, didn't he win 90?
Like 85, 90 in a row.
He was 90-0.
And then he came back. How about Willie Pep? He was like 85-0, lost a fight, won another like 60 straight fights, was in an airplane crash. Doctor goes, yeah, you probably never walk again. Then he had another like 60 fights.
Hey, Frank, is that true that he won a round without throwing
a punch? Yes.
He
just moved his head. You couldn't hit him. That's why they called him the Will of the Wisp. He was an incredible, and I think, Harper and Bob, there are some guys, they're just born. Like Bob, you think about it, Jim Thorpe wins the Olympics. He didn't even have matching shoes. He had one shoe. He had to borrow another shoe on cinders. And not only he won the decathlon, he won the pentathlon. So he won 15 events. There was like nobody on the team. They said when he played Carlisle, there were like 2 guys on the track team. So he did every event.
And he played Major League Baseball.
And Major League Baseball and pro football and box. So no diet, lived on a reservation. So I have to put, I don't care what they say about Michael Jordan. If you're saying probably the greatest athlete, I'd say Jim Thorpe. Then I might put Bo Jackson up there. I might put, I mean, because they could do, it's amazing. You play pro football and you're great at baseball. I mean, that's pretty amazing. But Jim Thorpe could do everything. He could do every event in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And you know, what did he train on? Like grits and biscuits and gravy. I mean, he grew up on a reservation.
Goose.
So would you agree with me, Bob, that Jim Thorpe is probably the greatest one of the greatest athletes ever?
Carlisle. Didn't he go to Carlisle?
Carlisle Indian School.
Yeah.
And then they take his medals away because in the summer he played semi-pro ball for like 50 cents a game. So he wins the Olympic gold medal, pentathlon, and they take his medals away. And then like 60 years later, after he's dead, and they wonder, well, why wasn't the family happy? I said, what do you mean, why weren't they happy? You destroyed his life. He died in a trailer, a fat drunk.
Yeah.
You took his medals away. And now you got people doing steroids and this and that. Much worse. Nothing happens.
100%.
It's ridiculous.
Frank, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
You've had the ability to not only articulate and talk about some of the famous boxers of all time. Mm-hmm. And you said you really developed a passion for it while the movie was beginning, Rocky, the theme and the idea behind that in the early mid-70s. What's it like when you finally get a chance to meet some of your heroes here? It's an interesting perspective because sometimes you're told never meet your hero, and in many respects, well, I wouldn't want anything but I don't care what he's like. This was my guy. What was?
I've never
like?
had a bad experience with the boxers ever.
100%.
Always gentlemen. I mean, I met Tommy Loughran, who's considered probably one of the greatest light heavyweights, had 170 fights. Put it this way, he fought Primo Carnera, 85-pound weight difference.
Oh, my gosh.
And he didn't get knocked out. And you meet him, or Corporal Izzy Schwartz, or Solly Seaman, or these old-time fighters from the 20s. They were all, no matter if they were rich or poor, they'd always show up with a sport coat and a tie, shirt and tie. Yep. And they carried themselves well. Like if you look at the old fighters or old baseball players off the field, they always were well dressed. They would get on a train. Look at the guys in the corner. Used to wear a shirt and tie. Yep. You know, I look at Ray Arcel, all the old time fighters. The corner guys would wear like
Ray
a
Arcel,
tie.
Joe Louis.
Yeah, Joe Louis. They were all dressed sharp. Sugar Ray Robinson, and I never heard them badmouth another fighter like they do today. Robinson, Joe was funny. He did bad. He goes, well, one thing, Billy, I just told him you can run, but you can't hide. So they never said anything derogatory. It was kind of tongue in cheek and funny. You know what I mean? And that's why Joe Louis was so well loved by everybody. He was very humble, great, one of the greats. Sugar Ray Robinson, never heard him say a bad word about another fighter. Never.
No, great guy.
Am I right?
100%.
Now it's like mother this and blah, blah. I mean, you look at the weigh-ins, it's disgraceful. Yep. They're coming in with cornrows and big beards. In those days, you couldn't come in and fight with a beard. No way. Maybe a mustache, but most fighters did. John O'Sullivan, when he fought, shaved his mustache and gave himself a crew cut. But he had real thick black. He was a black Irish, he had when he wasn't fighting. Well, a lot of those guys came in, they were clean shaven and they came in. Look at Robinson when he'd come in, hair all done, white terry cloth robe.
Same with Fritzy Zivic, always had his hair perfect.
Always had his hair. Fritzy Zivic's one of my favorite fighters. I have an interview with him. I found it. Matter of fact, the interview is a cassette by Peter Heller in the book in this corner. And Fritzy, so I'm listening to it, and he talks kind of fast. See, kind of talks real quick. He goes, hey, listen, I never lost a fight on a foul. And he was considered one of the roughest fighters, And he says, look, you're fighting in there. You ain't playing the piano. That's what he said. He goes, yeah, guys will get rough in there, give them the head, choke them, give them the laces a little bit. but I never thumbed anybody. Well, so he said when he was fighting Henry Armstrong, to me, one of the greatest fighters ever lived, he's fighting him for the title. That's Homicide Hank, I was telling you. And he goes back in his corner. He goes, Fritzy, the guy's giving you the business out there, like roughing him up inside. Says, you better go out and put your foot on the gas. He goes, yeah. So I go out there, I choke him, give him the head. So he did the same back to him. Robinson fought him. And Bob, would you consider, most people will say Robinson's probably pound for pound the greatest fighter ever.
No argument from anybody.
Ever. He said, now Fritzy Zivik was a welterweight. Robinson was a middleweight at that point. He said, I learned more about boxing in one fight with Fritzy Zivik than I did my whole career. In his whole career, because Fritzy Zivik was one of 5 brothers. They were all professional fighters from Pittsburgh. He knew every trick in the book. He'd spin you, and you didn't want to get into a clinch with him. That's where he'd go to work on you. He'd bust you up. Yeah, give you the laces, like turn you, give you the, he goes, yeah, I go out there, hit him in the nuts, choke him, heal him. Healing is like when they're inside, they give him the heel of the glove, or the guy's a little cut. I say, give him the laces. Like in the clinch, like give him the laces. Yeah. He goes, yeah, come in, I give him the head. So they knew, so it was a rough game in those days. And and they got away with it. Now you can't spin a guy. That's what McAfoley and I used to talk. They would spin guys, give them the business, the shoulder and stuff like that. Same with football. You can't rough the quarterback anymore like they used to.
No.
You know what I mean, Harper? You can't do. No way.
Hey, Frank, you talk about being calm. I got to know from working with the World Boxing Hall of Fame, Emil Griffith, very well. And
you're talking about one of the greats.
Sweetest, nicest guy. Now,
nicest guy.
He was a gay guy, and Kid Perret in Spanish called him a gay guy, and he killed him. He killed him in the ring.
Yeah, what happened? Yeah, he called him Kid Perret was a Cuban, great fighter, champion of the world.
Yeah.
And he said something, called him like a maricon or some kind of thing, like he's a sissy or something like that. And Emil didn't like that. So the fight was rough. But what happened, Ruby Goldstein didn't stop the fight in time. I don't think he was trying to kill him, but he had him in the corner. He was going to work on him. But obviously he felt horrible after that. He didn't mean to kill him, but he was just pissed. And he had him in the corner and he was working on him. And Ruby Goldstein should have stopped the fight at that point.
Yeah. And I'd heard he taken a beating from Gene Fulmer the fight before.
That was it. There's a story. Luther McCarty was fighting for the white heavyweight championship of the world. Now he fought in like 1909. He fought, and that's like when Jack Johnson. That's when the Great White Hope era came in. So they're always looking, the white race, because Jack Johnson. Luther McCarty he looked like Marlon Brando. For that time, though, he's 6'4", about 211 pounds, and he was the one that they said would beat Jack Johnson. I don't know if he would or not, but anyway, he's fighting in Calgary, Canada. Great looking. Fighting Arthur Pelkey. Arthur Pelkey goes like this, hits him like a half-ass jab. McCarty goes down. People are booing and bump. He died in the ring.
Wow.
What happened, he was from Nebraska. He was a cowboy, and he was riding a horse through Central Park when he was in New York, and he fell off and he landed on his head. So they think he probably had either an aneurysm or like a broken neck or like a spinal thing. And he just got hit with a light shot, dropped dead right in the ring.
Amazing.
So it's a dangerous sport, man. It's it's they're all dangerous. I mean, listen, if you're not wearing a batting helmet in the old days of Babe Ruth, and you get a guy like Walter Johnson, the big train, lay one of those pitches on, hit you in the head, would you say, Bob?
100%.
Or Bullet Bob Feller let one go and hit you square in the face, probably kill you.
Absolutely. All kinds of different ways of looking at that. Frank, you mentioned a little bit earlier, you started your historical and your passion for the sport in the mid-'70s. That was a golden era in my mind's eye. I mean,
great boxing era.
You talk about 10s and 20s and 50s and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. But the early 70s, especially in the heavyweight division, there were so many different people that were
Right.
great personalities. And
Right.
when we had Bob Arum on a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the importance of a guy like Howard Cosell being able to tell average Americans what this,
Yeah.
what this guy, what this hero, what Foreman, what Frazier, what Ken Norton or Ali were doing, and visit and interview with them outside of the ring and give you a chance to get to know them a little bit better and to grow the sport. It had been bigger in the 60s. You mentioned times where you and your whole family were watching, or
Well,
excuse me,
Don
listening to
Don
fights.
Dunphy was the Howard Cosell of
Yeah.
the 30s, 40s,
Absolutely.
50s, and the 70s. And the 70s. Yeah, because no, see, but here's the thing about why we talk about the 70s in boxing, but look who the trainers were. The trainers were guys that trained guys in the 30s and 40s.
Eddie Futch.
Eddie Futch, I mean, Ray Arcel, Whitey Bimstein. So they taught those guys all the old tricks, defense and stuff. So that was it. That was their lives. Charlie Goldman, all these guys. These guys have been doing it for 30, 40 years. So
Yeah.
So the 70s and 60s was kind of, even early 80s was the last era of the great old time trainers that had just transcended from like the 40s to then. Emmanuel Stewart, not 40s, but one of the great, to me, if you can make a fighter that comes in at 8 years old, never put a glove on, and he ends up being a world champion, you made that fighter. That's a whole different than inheriting a world champion and then training him. But if you can get a fighter from scratch, and I think Emmanuel is one of the great trainers. Look at the Kronk Gym at that time. Look how many fighters they had. Great, So
Like
and
McCall,
then
all those guys. They had so many guys.
everyone, Bill McKinty, Tommy Hearns.
How about Eddie Futch? I mean, Eddie Futch worked out at the Brewster Center in Detroit with Joe Louis, with Sugar Ray Robinson.
Yeah.
He trained with these guys back in.
Out here, you had Dick Sadler. You had all the old guys out, all the old guys out here. Yeah, but see, in like what you were saying, Harper, in the 70s, there were still carryovers from the golden age of boxing. That's why even when I look at Floyd Mayweather, he could never beat Duran or Leonard. No way.
Absolutely.
They would, or Hearns.
Ike Williams would kill him.
Oh, Ike Williams, yeah. Because again, just have a fighter sleeping on silk sheets, he's no good. These guys came from that's why the Mexican fighters are so tough. Look where they come from.
Yeah.
Dirt floors.
Absolutely.
So they're fighting for their life. You know what I mean? It's a little different.
If you don't mind me saying so, Frank, I'd like to give a little homage regarding the movie and Burgess Meredith having a real key role as Mickey. And for you to mention what you did about the trainer, and for Mickey to be such an important part in Rocky Balboa's development, and to be given a role in that. And it's not just about him, but it's all the other people that were a part of the boxing world that get to be highlighted in the movie.
Yeah.
And you're telling me the very same thing. Well, this is true life with this guy and that guy. And you're mentioning all these great trainers that were part of
the character of Mickey, you know what he was molded after? And Bob will know exactly who he is. Howie Steinler.
Oh, yeah. Main Street Jim ended up flipped in the back of a car, murdered in the back of a car.
Kind of talk like that. Yeah.
Many rumors about who did it, right? Many rumors about who did it.
Yes, right? Exactly. But he was killed in his Cadillac. Someone shot him. But that's who Mickey is kind of
absolutely
taken from. Howie Steiner talked like that. New York had that voice.
Always had a lot of cash on him.
Always had a lot of cash. He was a Cadillac, had the Main Street Gym. And he was like in Stillman's gym. That guy ran that was his gym. And what he said was law, and that was it. And you listen to him. But you know who was originally going to play Mickey? Lee J. Cobb.
Wow.
Really?
Which would have been great. I mean, you see on the waterfront, Johnny Friendly, how great. So my brother loved Lee J. Cobb. Everyone did. I mean, 12 Angry Men, one of the greats, So he comes in and he read the script and he said, this script is just wonderful. The writing and the soul. This is Lee J. Cobb, okay? Academy Award nominated actor. Worked with Elia Kazan, one of the greats, So John Avildsen, out of nowhere, he goes, Mr. Cobb, do you mind reading reading. It's a $900,000 movie. You're asking Lee J. Cobb to read for this movie for scale.
Yeah.
For $340 a week, scale.
Right.
And Lee J. Cobb said, well, the last person I read for was Ilya Kazan. And, but I appreciate you having me here. And he left. My brother turned to John Avildsen. He wanted to kill him. Well, seriously, he was going to choke him to death. He
What
said,
did
you told Lee J. Cobb to read for this little movie for scale $340? What are you, crazy? That'd be like, you know, in Godfather, they made Marlon Brando read. Because, not because Francis Ford Coppola didn't want him, he wanted him. But the studio goes, well, you know, Brando's career's in the toilet. You know, he's doing bad movies. And they just couldn't see him as the Godfather. So Marlon Brando put the cotton in his mouth. I want to tell you something, okay? My sons. And he read and got the part. They didn't want Al Pacino. Al was over the house. He said, they wanted to fire me from the Godfather. See, Francis campaigned. He knew who he wanted, but the studios, they said, well, who's this Al Pacino? He's never done anything. He's a stage actor. We've never even heard of him. Jimmy Caan, yeah. Jimmy Caan had done movies. You know, he'd done Cinderella, Liberty, and, you know, and the Brian song. He'd done those things already. Right. Okay. Yeah. So Al goes, so Francis goes to Al, says, you know, they're going to fire you. He goes, what? Why? They just think you're too weak for the part. We don't see. He goes, yeah, but I'm building the character. You know, he's a stage actor, you know. He goes, nah, they're going to let you go. So we're going to cut to the chase and film before the weekend, film the scene of you going into the restaurant after you got beat up by Sterling Hayden, and you're going to kill Sollozzo and McCluskey. So when he did that scene, remember, like when he comes in the restaurant and he goes into the bathroom and takes the gun out of the thing, and he comes out and shoots, he shoots them both, and they and remember Clemenza, just drop the gun when you go out.
Yeah.
And that's what saved them in the movie. They looked at it and they go, wow, okay, now we saw another side to this guy.
Yeah.
Did you notice you saw Dempsey's place when they were driving to Brooklyn? You see Dempsey's restaurant? Yeah. It was great.
You know, Jack Dempsey used to sit in the booth by the front window.
Yeah.
That's where he'd sit. Yeah. You would walk by, you'd see Jack Dempsey in the window of Dempsey's restaurant. That's where he would hold court. He had the corner booth right by the door. And I'm going, wow, Jack Dempsey. That was Mike Tyson's favorite fighter. That's why, you know, he came in like Jack Dempsey used to just come in with a towel sometimes. Yep.
No robe.
And he had his hair cut on the side like Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey was like, you know, you're talking about in the roaring 20s, it was Jack Dempsey, Babe Ruth, Bill Tilden.
Yep.
And who was the other guy?
Ty Cobb, maybe.
Bobby Jones.
Bobby Jones. Wow.
Ty Cobb's a little early.
Yeah. But you know what was interesting in watching Stallone, Frank, that is, what I really thought was interesting is Talia Shire, who was in Godfather and was in Rocky.
Oh, she's great.
She was talking about how much she loves Frank, and she said they have something in common. And I thought, I never thought about it. She said, my brother was
Francis
a rock
Ford
star.
Coppola.
She said his brother was a rock star. So they both had the same vibes.
Yeah.
Up as siblings of rock stars, you know, and I thought that
like
was really
how Talia didn't win the Oscar for playing Adrian.
Oh,
you lost to Beatrice Straight. No one ever heard of this person.
No, I know.
I mean, Adrian is one of the most. I mean, or Burgess didn't win for Mickey.
That's the politics.
Guy had been in, the guy had been in this.
Frank,
it is politics. He'd been in this business. He'd been in this town for 50 years. Burgess Meredith. He goes back to Idiot's Delight with Clark Gable. You know what I mean? So
Rod Steiger told me years ago, and Rod was a dear friend of mine. He was an AA
Rod was great.
In Malibu, great guy. And he would tell me, he said, Bobby, I should have won the Academy Award for Pawnbroker. And he said,
absolutely.
And he said, the next year they gave it to me for Heat of the Night. And he said, I was horseshitting that, but I should have won it for Pawnbroker.
Oh, the Pawnbroker was heavy, man.
Because they felt guilty for Pawnbroker, so they gave it to him for.
The Pawnbroker. It just, wasn't a big movie. I think it was Sidney Lumet, or it might have been. But he plays like a Jewish pawnbroker that suffered from the Holocaust, and he had like flashbacks. It was great. But Sly worked with him on The Specialist, and Rod was nuts. This later in life, and he would never get out of character of that Cuban accent. So Sly goes, so Rod, we're going to, let me tell you, my friend, we're going to do this. And Sly says, what the fuck are you doing? He wouldn't get out of character. Even when they're not even filming, he'd still talk with this, so I want to say something to you, okay? He drove everyone nuts. But listen, man, Rod Steiger is one. Look at The Harder They Fall. How great was he in that with Humphrey Bogart?
Unbelievable, yeah.
That was about Primo Carnera.
Yep.
That poor bastard, what they did to him.
Wow.
He was working. Primo Carnera owned a liquor store in Glendale on Los Feliz down by the Tam O'Shanter.
Did he really?
I was a young kid selling liquor for Young's Market, and I walk in, and he's sitting on an orange crate in the back. His hands were this big.
Oh, no,
and
he was huge.
He found out I knew about boxing. He talked to me for 40 minutes about what.
But he was a gentle giant.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever live in Glendale around there?
I lived in. That's where Jimmy McLaren lived too. I lived in Glendale. That's where I met Casey Stengel. I worked for him.
Do you remember there was a middleweight champion? He died young. Vince Dundee's television repair.
He had a restaurant.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. His son, Vince Dundee, died of lateral sclerosis young, but he was a middleweight champion from Baltimore. And his brother was the welterweight champion, Joe and Vince Dundee. Yep. Their real last name was Lazzaro. They're from the old country in Italy. And he moved to Glendale, and they had Vince Dundee's TV service. And I think his son, Vince died. His son became very successful in real estate, had the restaurant, catering, really big. But Vince was a middleweight champion. Yeah. And so a lot of fighters moved to California, and it was so big out here because of the weather.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the greatest fights. If you go to Vernon, there's a great book, Leonis of Vernon. Vernon was its own town, started by a Basque named Leonis. Have you ever been to Vernon? And
they had a Coast League baseball team there.
They had the Vernon Tigers, and they had the biggest boxing stadium that was built by Jack Doyle, called the Vernon Arena, and also James J. Jeffries. From 1908, Vernon was a wide open town. Like LA was a dry city, but you could go to Vernon. They had the Vernon Country Club. And on the weekends, there'd be 30,000 people in Vernon drinking, hookers, whorehouses, restaurants. The Vernon Arena had the longest bar in the world. They had 36 bartenders. The bar was almost a block or half a block long inside Jack Doyle's. You go there now, there's nothing, just meat packing plants. That's where they shot Rocky when he's hitting the meat in the first. That was Vernon.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, because it's known for, remember, slaughterhouses, Farmer John's there, but it was a wide open town, and all the powers that be hated Leonis and these other guys because everyone would come from LA. I mean, Al Jolson, everybody would come to Vernon to party, and what was the guy's name? Oh, something, the Baron or something. He was, there were a lot. It's a great book. So California was really big.
Ed Strangler Lewis used to go there, I think, too.
Ed Strangler Lewis, man. Talk about him. He looks like a fat guy. Let him grab you. Break your head in half.
Hey, I want to tell you, Lou Filippo, who was in all...
I knew Lou. Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah, he's in all 5 Rocky movies. That's
right.
Lou Filippo was the referee in all 5. Lou was one of my dearest friends.
And he was a pro fighter.
We used to kid him. Every time Carlos Ortiz, he's been house here, we always kid Carlos Ortiz. Lou Filippo knocked him down and almost knocked him out when they fought. Lou
was a real fighter. Lou was a nice guy, man. Did you ever meet what was his name? Oh, well, George Latka.
Oh, George was there for years on that. Charlie Cassis, George Latka, they were all part of that whole thing.
Yeah. No,
he refereed and he fought. George Latka fought and he refereed.
You got to watch the documentary called 18th and Grand. It's a documentary on Amazon about the Olympic.
Oh yeah, that's great.
It's so sad. Eileen Eaton was amazing.
She kicked Mickey Cohen out of Olympic Auditorium.
How about that? Well, she also had her son Gene LaBelle next to her.
That was Gene LaBelle's mom, and
Yeah,
she
and you didn't mess with Judo Gene, man.
Oh
No
my
way.
God, he killed a guy. He got out of. He
Yeah.
never had to go to the joint. It was hilarious.
And his brother was part of it too, right? Mike
Oh,
LaBelle.
he didn't like his brother. I'll tell you that. He told me his brother was an attorney, and he said he wanted to clip him. But you know, I love Gene. He's in your documentary too.
Yeah, if you see Gene LaBelle, he looked like William Bendix.
Yeah, oh,
Remember
yeah.
Life of Riley? He didn't look tough or like a fighter at all. Benny the Jet Yakita said he's probably the toughest man in the world.
He was the baddest man in the world.
There's not a pressure point on your body that he doesn't know. They say he would go to a party.
What's that actor's name he put on his ass? What's the famous actor's
Steven
name?
Seagal.
Tell him that story.
How dumb do you have to be? Gene LaBelle, they didn't call him Judo Gene for nothing. His whole thing were joint holds and choke holds. That was his thing. So Steven Seagal's there. Well, no one can choke me out. And Gene would work as a stuntman or a coordinator on the movies. You know, he did a lot of movies.
Stuntman, Hall of Fame stuntman.
Yeah. So, and Gene's there. Oh, you know, he's like Wallace Beery. No, I don't want to do that. You know. He says, "No, go ahead, do it, Steve Seagal." He gets behind him in like 4 seconds. He's out. Supposedly, Benny Jet said he like peed his pants. He just got behind me, goes, "Oh, okay," and that was it. They said he was at a party and some guy was talking loud, and he just went up to him on his shoulder, like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he hit a nerve, and the guy just went to sleep. He was a. Am I correct? Was he a phenom?
Unbelievable! I love that guy. And he's the greatest guy in the world too.
Funny.
I watched him when I was a kid wrestling at the Olympic Auditorium with Mr. Moto and Ben Sharp and Mike Sharp and Hardy.
Parker, let me tell you a funny story. This is a true story, and you'll appreciate this. So I come out in 1975, and they're just kind of filming Rocky, and they were doing some blocking. They weren't filming it. They were like working on. It was at the Olympic. It was in the afternoon. I'll never forget it. And in the ring was like Sonny Shields. And they were doing, Sonny Shields is Randy Shields' father. And they were just working out things for the boxing, for the movie, right? And Gene LaBelle's like in there playing the referee. I don't even think they're filming it. They were just working out things. So my brother goes, yeah. Frankie Crawford was there, Irish Frankie Crawford, who was another tough nut. Yep. So he goes, so I go in the corner. I'll never forget this in my life. I come up to Gene. I said, I go, hi, Mr. He goes, hi, kid. How are you? I go, so what would you do if someone did this? How would you? He goes, well, let me show you. I swear on my life. He just kind of grabbed me, and I heard my neck go. like one of those clacker boards. Like, I went,
yeah.
Holy shit. He broke my neck. He goes, well, that's how you do it. I said, I didn't ask you to, I just asked you a question. I didn't ask you to like cripple me. I walked around like this for like 4 days. I'm serious. I felt every vertebrae in my neck just go.
That is
and he
hilarious.
was just showing me. He was like, well, that's how you. And so I goes, what are you fucking crazy? What are you letting me do that for? Oh, yeah, man. And Sonny Shields was a tough guy. Remember Sonny?
Oh, yeah, Randy, he killed a guy. He shot
Sonny
two guys holding up a place. I loved it.
No, Sonny Shields was from D.C., Washington. White guy. He ran one of the toughest gangs in Washington, D.C. as like a teenager. So he was a real tough. So was Frankie Crawford.
Yeah.
Frankie Crawford was managed by Robert Conrad.
Yep.
And every time Conrad wanted to get in the ring, Frankie would just beat him to death. Frankie was like 100. He was a featherweight, 125 pounds. And he looked like a miniature small version of Jerry Quarry, like flat nose kind of from Cleveland. And he beat Mondo Ramos. It was great. But Frankie got right into Ken Norton's face. He goes, you know what? I think you're like a pussy. I think I kick your ass. And Ken Norton's going like, what? This guy's 125 pounds. He's a street guy, man. Him and Raul Rojas and Mondo Ramos, they would go out and get
worked on the docks down in San Pedro.
Oh man. Carlos Palomino told me these guys would go out on the weekend and get high and walk into a diner downtown to go, hey, make us breakfast. The guy goes, what? You heard me. These were rough dudes, man. Frankie Crawford, if you looked at him, you wouldn't want to mess with him. 125 pounds or not. He would put you out. Yeah. So, Harper, that's why I like boxing. There's so many great stories.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, names like Kid Statue, Blink McCluskey, what was one guy's name?
Kid Gavilan.
They had great names. Billy Patrol, the Fargo Express.
Yeah.
So they all had these great names. Crocky Boyle, all these now they don't have names. Everything is like some self-grandizing name. You know what I mean?
Do you know what Joey Maxim's real name was?
Giuseppe Bernardinelli, something.
Great.
That was Macca's favorite fighter.
Oh, I loved him. We used to see him in Vegas with Johnny Tappi. We'd go to this Italian restaurant up there, where all the wise guys went, retired wise guys in Vegas, and Joey Maxim was there all the time. What a good guy.
And Harper, Joey Maxim was movie star handsome. He's light heavyweight champion. He fought Ezra Charles. He fought everybody.
Yeah.
And he fought Ray Robinson. Ray Robinson was beating him. And he was a light heavyweight champ. Ray was like 158 pounds, was beating him. But it was so hot. It was at Yankee Stadium. It was so hot and humid that Ray Robinson just ran out of gas. And they stopped the fight because he's fighting a bigger guy.
Yeah. And
he just, from heat prostration, just collapsed. And so they go, well, Joey, he was beating you. Joey says, hey, you didn't see any air conditioning in my corner, did you? So he said, I was in the same heat.
Yeah.
But Joey Maxim was great. He ended up being like a greeter or something in Vegas. Yeah. Most guys don't really, very few fighters in the game end up with money because it's a really dirty sport. I mean, I love the sport, but it's a very corrupt. It's a
red light district of sports.
It really doesn't bring the high crop of, most of these people, they get robbed by their, like Danny Little Red Lopez thought he had like $1 million or some dollars in the bank when he retired. What's her name? Steinler's daughter told me the story. What was her name? She just died. Carol Steinler.
That's what, yeah.
And Howie Steinler, that was little Danny Red Lopez was like his son.
Yeah.
Loved him. Yep. So
that's why he got whacked.
Yes. And we won't get into that. That's something for off the air. So anyway, so Danny, when he retired, thought he had like $1 million, $1.4 million, which is a lot of money, in the 80s, a lot of money now. And he was going to open up a few string of pizza place called Little Red's Pizzas. Retires, he has no money. Money's gone. So he goes to Benny. He says, where's my money? He goes, well, I invested it in oil wells. I did this, and they all didn't come through. And he ended up with no money. He had to start working construction, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And look at him now, poor guy. I mean, thank God he's got his wife.
That's why I like Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard lives on Amalfi. His house didn't burn down in the Palisades, thank God.
Yeah, $30 million house.
Beautiful house. He upgraded the upstairs, and you can see the ocean from his house. I mean, great place. But, Ali told him when he first met him, you can promote yourself.
He did.
You don't need anybody else to promote you. And
know what he say? Ray Leonard goes, everyone, Don King, everyone go to Ray Leonard, goes, talk to Mike Trainer. Mike Trainer was a lawyer, and Mike Trainer was with him from the first day until the last day. And so Ray wasn't beholden to any promoters. He says, boxing needs me. I don't need boxing. That's why he saved his money. Hagler saved all his money. He was very frugal. Larry Holmes saved his money.
They say he owns that place in that whole town.
Easton.
Yeah,
Easton. Yeah, who wants to live in Easton? I mean,
exactly.
But he owns the town. But Max Schmeling ended up very wealthy. He ran Coca-Cola in Europe.
Wow.
And he lived to 100 years, 100 years old.
Frank Bob has said on numerous occasions, he said, I need a shower after talking about boxing and the way it's run from a business perspective and how these
it's
fighters
horrible.
go through all of their blood, sweat, and tears in the ring. And so much of the money is taken from them before they even have a chance to cash a check. You know,
Well, Don King, they say, well, you guys, Tim Witherspoon said, I'm supposed to get I fought for $2 million. You sent me a check for 90,000. He
How
goes,
about
well,
Don King?
you got
Don King
training.
Don King was paying his daughter $300,000 to manage the Mike Tyson fan club.
And his brother, Carl, his son. Yeah, but the thing is, they'd say, well, training this, training Hegel. That's not like $500,000,
Right.
So, it's so sad. A lot of these guys ended up broke, but the smart guys like Hagler always had Goody and Pat Petronelli, never trained trainers, same trainers his whole career.
Yeah.
So he ended up, and he was a little frugal anyway, which he should be. But, after he fought Leonard, he moved to Italy, lived to Italy, and did, action movies and saved his money. Got the COVID shot, died 2 days later.
Oh, my gosh.
That happened to so many guys.
That's right. I never got the shot. I said, nah.
Very smart.
No way. No. But the thing is, and there's a documentary, Harper, you should watch on TV, on Amazon. It's about Paul Pender. Paul Pender was the middleweight champion, beat Robinson from Brookline, Massachusetts. He was a fire captain, but he was a middleweight champion, fought Fulmer, fought everyone. He was articulate, well-read, well-spoken. So all of a sudden, this is a documentary, it's true. And his wife says, all of a sudden he started forgetting stuff. He forgot where he was. He just would leave stuff. When he'd go out, we have to find him. Eventually, they had to put him in a home from boxing. Okay, she says when he dies, I'm going to donate his body to science. So when they removed his brain after he died for science, he had like a hole through his brain.
Of course.
And that's what started all the stuff on CTE.
Yeah.
That she donated. She knew nothing about it. She says, I just knew he became forgetful.
Frank, I used to tell my fighters, what good is money if you can't count it? And
You
how
can't
many
count it.
guys, I've seen them retire at 33, 34 years old. They're fine. When they're 50, they don't know what day it is. I've seen
Floyd Patterson.
Floyd, he forgot his secretary's name in the New York Athletics Commission. He had a secretary for 20 years, forgot her name. Ingemar Johansson. Edna, his wife.
He didn't have that many fights.
I know. A lot of them didn't. A lot of them. I mean, you can go on and on and on and on. Jerry Corey, Mike Corey, this guy, that guy.
But Archie Moore was very articulate.
Joey Maxim had to have somebody walk him around at the end.
Yeah. I mean,
George
is
Chuvalo's been for 6 years, doesn't
Poor guy.
recognize his son, Mitch.
And he was so articulate.
Absolutely. He had the greatest line. A reporter asked him one time, George, you speak so good for having all those fights. And he said, well, I used to stutter before I started boxing.
No, but it's true. You should be out of the game by 27, 28.
That's right.
Because most of these guys start in the Junior Olympics at 8 years old. And I don't care how good you are, you still get hit. Ray Robinson ended up.
It's the sparring.
It's the
I mean,
sparring.
you did a lot of it, but you're still fine. But you didn't,
Yeah, but I didn't like getting hit. So I would just, I didn't care if I had to move around. But here's the thing. Mancini told me, Ray, he goes, why I left early. First of all, he goes, when I killed the guy in the ring, that didn't really help. That didn't sit well with him. But the thing was, he said, for the style I fight, it's not for a long-term career. Yeah, it's not. It's like in there all the time. So it's not like it's not a great style to fight for a long time. But if you look at guys like Benny Leonard in the old days, they retired at like 27, 26.
Benny Leonard?
But
wow.
Benny Leonard, yeah. Well, but the thing was, again, we'll get back to it. Like what Bob nailed it right on the head. Sparring. You get hurt in the gym more than you do the fight.
Yep. So
you're in a camp for 8 weeks. The fight's 35 minutes. You're in 8 weeks and you're sparring. And the headgear was invented for one thing: cuts and cauliflower ears. There's no chin. There's a chin under here. I've seen guys get dropped in the gym, knocked out all the time. But so in those days, like we were talking about earlier, guys would fight so often. These guys like fight once a year, so that means they put on weight. Then the guy dropped the weight. Their timing's off. They're getting hit with shots they normally wouldn't get hit with, and that's what happens. In those days, they'd fight 6 days later after a fight because they were in tip-top shape. And if they didn't get hurt or anything like that or banged up, they would fight. So the thing is, they didn't spend a lot of time in the gym. Maybe for a fight, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. But if they fought 5 times a month, they didn't have. They just had to be in condition. Said they would shadow box and things like that. But when you're taking a pounding in the gym, I mean, Philadelphia, that's what Philadelphia was known for, the gym wars.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah. All kinds of different stuff. Frank, Bob brought up the point that you had fought yourself. Very quickly, a friend of mine, David Seltzer, who was a boxer, had to learn how to fight to protect himself when he was a school kid. He's a little chubby and he got beaten up. And so he learned to defend himself. He had 8 professional fights. I'm sorry, he had 16, excuse me. He went 8-8.
Pretty good.
And I asked him on a couple of occasions, I said, I know the answer doesn't change, but why didn't you have a 17th fight? And he says, Harper, I reached a level of competency in the ring that I knew I couldn't get any better. And I sparred with a guy that kind of toyed with me. He was so good. Yeah. He was so strong. He was so much better than I was that I knew that I had reached a level that was great for me, but I couldn't get to that next level. Was there any of that with you and your learning how to fight? Well,
yeah. I mean,
where you go, I love it, but I'm not going to be good enough to be able to defend myself against some of these other guys.
No, absolutely right. Some people are just born for it. James Toney is a born fighter. Roy Jones, they're set up for it. Like I'm set up to be a singer musician. It just comes natural to me. There's no thinking about it.
You don't have to work. You have to work. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But please forgive me for interrupting. The natural talent that you have, the ability to hit a note or the ability to extend a note that other people can't, or they even in the shower, they sound like they're making a dog cry.
Yeah.
In a fighting world, there are certain guys that have it, whatever it is, the speed, the ability.
It is the twitch muscle, the twitch, the speed, the calmness. Like you can't teach someone to sing. That's a fallacy. Yeah. Can you improve like an opera singer? Yes. Do they study? But they can sing already. But opera is very tough. And there's, you're singing in a foreign language. So yes, there's like, if you listen to Vladimir Horowitz on piano or Arthur Rubinstein, they practice 8-10 hours a day because, they're playing, Rachmaninoff's Second Concerto in C minor. So there's a skill to it, but you can't teach someone to sing. It's like how your bones are set up in your ears, how your receptors are. I've sat with my brother and I'm saying, he goes, yeah, I like this. I said, don't sing, Sly. Please don't sing. You're tone deaf.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going,
did you speak Italian, Frank?
When I went there. I said,
Frank, did you speak Italian?
When you're hearing my voice. Just no receptors.
Right.
Hey, Frank.
Like we sang in Paradise Alley, I said, Sly, what do you think? I said, it's horrible. I mean, listen, man, you're a great writer. You're a great actor.
I don't think they
you just can't sing. It's not your game. It's like how many great baseball players? Well, think about it in baseball. How many guys, Bob, play all state, all city in high school baseball, didn't go to college, all American baseball? They never get out of AA, AAA ball ever, and they're great.
100%.
So it just shows you how good the guys are on the team that sit the bench, don't even play. Am I correct?
Yeah, it happens all the time. By the way, Bob, we can hear you.
Hey, Frank, did you speak Italian? Your mom's from Italy. Your dad's from Italy. Did you speak Italian?
You can hear me, right? I can't hear Bob now.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, Bob. Frank can't hear you. Bob was asking if you speak Italian when you were younger. Was that a part of your? Poorly. Okay.
No, my father's from Italy.
Right.
And they spoke Italian around the house, but at that time, speak English, because when my father came over, if you didn't speak English, you couldn't get a job. So, of course, he was bilingual, but you had to go to the American school and learn how to speak English. It isn't like today. They didn't make signs in Italian or Chinese or Spanish in those days. You either got with the program or you were out of luck. So, do I wish I could speak fluent Italian? Absolutely. I would have had much more dates if I could. I would have had a better love life if I could speak French, Italian, and Spanish. But they said, how can I learn Italian fluently? He goes, you got to go to Italy and get a girlfriend. You'll learn quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which
hey, Bob,
I did do.
Bob, I'm showing that your microphone is muted. Unmute your mic and or if you need to back out and come back in again, we'll gladly welcome you in.
Did someone touch his thing?
Can you hear me?
Did anybody touch Bob's mic?
I can hear Bob, but Frank, you're not able to hear him. So that Bob, go ahead and re-enter before you come in. Unmute the mic, and we'll see you in a couple seconds, if that's okay, because Frank can't hear you. And Frank, the music part of it, I don't want to avoid the boxing at all, but what you know naturally, we mentioned a little bit earlier, at 6 years old, you're able to hit notes.
Yeah, Mike's. I can see Bob. The mute's on his mic.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too. We lost him. So Alana's going to help fix him up. Please forgive me for that, and I apologize, but we want to get him back up as quickly as we can. The stuff that comes naturally for you from a musical standpoint. Mm-hmm. And I've got a friend that just texted me a moment ago. I need to ask you about your guitar collection. I mean, we'll talk about that a little bit, but right. First and foremost, just from a very early age, how music was important for you, and for obvious reasons, how you started to recognize, I'm good at this. I sound good. I can hit notes. I can learn to imitate exactly what I hear on the record or on the radio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was very apparent. We won the Battle of the Bands when I was in high school against bands that were much more established than we were, and it just came naturally to me. I'm not as good as a guitar player as I'd like to be. I can play. I mean, and my stepfather and father kept saying, when you get out of high school, you should go to music school. And I thought that was being like really square. That was like in the 60s. Nah, I don't want to go to music school. I wish I did. Because if you know music theory, like usually, whatever instrument you play, you'll minor on keyboard for composition.
Yeah.
I really wish I would have done that. I was very stupid. I was hard-headed. And all I dreamed about, I didn't dream about girls. I dreamed about guitars. And then I have so many guitars that I don't need, but I bought them because I wanted it when I was a teenager. I said, oh, man, look at that guitar. And then I bought them. And I said, my brother goes, what are you going to do with all those guitars? I said, well, what are you going to do with all your Rolex watch collection? Well, you got a point. I said, yeah. And your collection is worth more than my guitars. I said, damn sure. Yeah. I mean, some of those watches like $200,000. Like, that's just his thing. And art. He collects, he loves. My brother's a great artist. He really is. I mean, he sold some of his paintings for like $600,000.
Wow.
And I got a lot of them because I would go in the garage where he's painting. He goes, yeah, what do you think of that? He goes, I don't like it. I said, it's great. Can I have it? Yeah, all right, take it. Yeah, so I've got huge oils. And he says, listen, this is very funny. They're doing an art show in Europe. No, that one you have over your fireplace and that one, the older ones, they're great.
He wants them back?
No. He says, listen. I need them for this art show they're just doing around the country. You'll get them back in like 3 weeks. Almost 3 years later.
No way.
I said, yo, man, what's up? I mean, you got Picassos in your house and stuff, and I got a blank wall over my fireplace for almost 3 years.
Yes.
I go, no, I'll get to it. So I think his wife really broke his balls on it, and I got him back about 6 months ago. Okay. But, I said, Sly, I love them. I mean, they're really great. He has one of a giant one, and he's kind of abstract the way he paints. And of John Gilbert, says dead at 37. John Gilbert was one of the most famous silent screen stars there ever was. And they kind of blackballed him, said his voice was effeminate, which it wasn't when talkies came in, and he died of alcohol at 37. But that being said, so we all have our things. Like my brother's thing is He's a great writer. He's a great director. I mean, seen some of the movies like, Copland or Rocky Balboa. I mean, he's a good actor. It's not like he just fell out of the sky. He paid his dues. He was in New York doing off Broadway. He went to college, with drama in University of Miami. So it wasn't like he was just some stumble bum that all of a sudden did Rocky. He did theater. He did things like that. It wasn't just
Frank,
accident.
tell the story about his dog. Can you tell the story about his dog,
Mike?
Frank? Oh, you still can't hear me.
I can hear you, Bob, but evidently there's an issue with you and Frank. He said Bob just asked if you would be able to share the story about Sylvester's dog, and I know a little bit of it, but please, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, he bought Butkus as a puppy. He was a bull mastiff when he and his wife at that time, Sasha, lived in this little one-room apartment. Because I lived next door. There were dumps. Okay,
right.
We didn't have like refrigerators or anything. We used to put our stuff out on the balcony for cold. So they bought this little puppy, Butkus. Yeah. So Butkus was like a person because they were in such close quarters. He had Butkus. So when he left from New York, he left his apartment. He left almost everything there. Me being the scavenger, I went in there and took all the albums and some of the clothes and stuff and packed it in my station wagon and drove back to Trenton, New Jersey with him. So he had Butkus out here. And Butkus was like a person. He was just the greatest dog. He was so sweet. And he was living out here, and he was so broke that he sold him to Jimmy Gambino, who played the little short guy in Rocky, that Jimmy Rocky. Mickey's really mad. Yeah, so am I. That guy.
Yeah.
And he wanted it back. He sold it to him. They tried to get back, and Jimmy was like, I can't. He goes, all right, I'll give you a part in the movie. And he got his dog back.
Yeah, he got his dog back.
He loved that dog.
Amazing. Yeah.
There's a funny story. When the movie was so low budget that they came out by train from Hollywood to Philadelphia. That's how low budget was. Like a 3-day train. Yeah, from Los Angeles, Union Station to Philadelphia. No plane, a train. And they brought Butkus along. So Sly goes, I'm here with Butkus. And every time this train would stop somewhere, the dog would never go to the bathroom. And he was a big dog. He was like 140 pounds.
Yeah.
And my brother would like hold him up and squeeze him to try to make him go to the bathroom like a tube of toothpaste. And he wouldn't go to the bathroom for like 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
The dog was probably, so Sly tells a story. So we get to this, I think they were staying at like a Holiday Inn or a Quality Courts. It's a low budget movie. He says the second we got to the hotel, the dog goes on the lawn for like 10 minutes. Like, he said there was a mound that looked like a pyramid right up to the dog's butt. He just cut loose, but he was so nervous on the train. He was like constipated. He wouldn't go to the bathroom. He said, I swear to God, the dog squatted. Had to be 10 minutes of constant.
Had to go.
On the lawn or the driveway at the hotel.
Oh my goodness.
And I said, oh God, that's hilarious. Because he was such a sweet dog. And when he died, Sly goes, I'm going to have him taxidermied when he dies, like Roy Rogers did with Trigger. So Sly was out of town doing the movie, and I was living in his house. And I think I just moved, and he had a housekeeper. I remember I didn't like her. She's kind of mean. So, and she took care of the dog and all. So when he died, she had the dog cremated.
Uh-oh.
My brother, I think if he had a gun, he would have shot her. He was so pissed. She goes, well, I got his ashes. He goes, it's like a coffee can.
Right.
The dog's ashes. He loved that dog so much that he was going to have him like Roy Rogers did with his horses and Trigger and Bullet. And all. That's what he wanted to do because Butkus was a movie star. I mean, he was in all the Rockies. He was like, Butkus was like a movie star dog, you know?
Yeah.
And he was so, man, was he pissed off.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was pissed off. I said, we should cremate her.
Everyone loved Butkus. You couldn't help but love that dog because it was so the relationship was so genuine. You've done a great job at this all throughout here today. And you mentioned your brother is an artist and the creativity.
Oh yeah.
You're a storyteller. You know how to tell stories about the boxer and the era and the event and then the fight and then the backstory. You mentioned that from the very beginning. How does that translate into your ability to songwrite and your ability to take an idea and a theme and add some music to it and come up with come up with a song that you go, I love this. I want to put this down. I want to make a track out of this.
It's a stream of consciousness, really. And if you ask Bob Dylan, they've asked, well, how'd you write that? He goes, I have no idea.
I don't know what I'm doing. Isn't that amazing? Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you. It's just amazing.
And he said that Paul McCartney goes, I don't know. Sometimes maybe it's a dream. I don't know what the words sound good together. I don't, it's like when I did Staying Alive, I read the script once and I started writing songs, and it's like a street, it's like when you're on a roll. It's like a great batter all of a sudden's in a batting slump, and he's the same baseball player, but he can't connect with the ball. There's something that disconnects, and then all of a sudden they get back on the thing and they're like batting, like they're hitting everything. It's like that with songwriting. If I'm not motivated, nowadays you have to understand what killed music for me was when hip hop and rap came out. Because to me, it's not music. I don't care what anybody says. You can hate me. To me, it's not music. It's like Jerry Garcia goes, it's talking, and someone puts a beat there. It's not music. It's not like where you sit there with a guitar or a piano or a cello or a violin and write music. I mean, if you listen to Tchaikovsky, George Gershwin, Rachmaninoff, Aaron Copland, that's music. That's where they sit there with and that's music. So when that came in, all of a sudden, then the synthesizer came in. So these guys that have zero musical talent are sitting there sampling something, going, well, that sounds good. Let's put a beat to it. And they just go with this rambling talk. So that kind of being a singer-songwriter, it kind of really hurt me. And what I should have done when that came out, and my father, I'll never forget, I should have gone to Nashville. Because I would have done great there. Because that's, country music. You sit there, as my dad. That's in Sicily.
Really?
Yeah, when my brother was doing Avenging Angela with Anthony Quinn.
Okay.
So my father, we're not Sicilian, we're Bardese. So my father goes with us to Sicily. And the Sicilian language it's like another language than Italian. I mean, it's a dialect. So my father's sitting there. My father's born in Italy, And he's sitting there. They're going, buongiorno, Franco. They're starting to speak. And my father's looking like with this blank look on his face. I said, what did he tell you? He said, I don't know what the hell he said. So it took him like 3 or 4 days to kind of get the gist of it. It's like if a Mexican from East LA it goes to Argentina or Madrid, it's like a different language.
Yeah.
Because there's dialects. And you go in Sicily, each town has a different dialect. So my father comes over and he's sitting there. You can see his hands. Hey, he had the biggest hands. He had hands like Rocky Marciano, big, thick bear mitts. And so that was in Sicily, and that was a lot of fun. My dad just came along. It was great. He was on a private jet, and he stole everyone's figs. My father loved figs.
Really?
So my brother goes, my dad's driving us crazy, these big hands. And he had a big bowl of figs. And he's sitting here like with big hands. So my brother gave him like a sleeping pill or something. Something. And all of a sudden, my father, like about 20 minutes later, he's like this.
Uh-oh.
He's out. So my brother took the figs. So I don't care for figs. My brother loves figs. So my brother goes, I'll take care of that. And it was a private jet from LA to Italy. So my father just conked him out because my father was kind of grumpy. God damn it, I told you. Jesus Christ. He's one of those guys. My father was a hairdresser, and he thought he was a better singer than me. My brother goes, this guy's like delusional, But my father would always have a drink, and his wife, his third wife or something, would sit there at the piano and he'd sing. And he thought he was like Perry Como. So he would sing. He goes, that's how you do it. I go, okay, thanks. Okay. So we're in Italy, and the people are there. Frank, come on, we're by the pool having drinks. Nighttime, he goes, why don't you sing something? I go, nah, I don't feel like singing. I don't want to, right? He goes, God damn it, get up there and sing. God damn it. So I get there and I sing, and everyone's like applauding, hey, except my father. He didn't even acknowledge that I sang. It was like he was jealous, you know what I mean? That I could sing. I said, you asked me to sing. Yeah, right. Okay. But yeah. We didn't have we definitely did not have stage parents at all,
Really?
We were my father was a hairdresser,
You mentioned a moment earlier ago, hey, I should have probably gone to Nashville, right? I should have probably.
Absolutely. Yes, I should have.
I've always
because that's how I write. I'm a guitar player. I write with my guitar, and I do both. I do lyrics and music.
Right.
So we've been the perfect setting. And then then you realize everyone from LA, the great writers, all went to Nashville. I mean, I can't write hip hop. I don't know anything about that music. And it just kind of took over the music business. Guys were sitting at home with their synthesizers and their Pro Tools and making records. You didn't have to go in the studio.
And GarageBand, right? You can do it in your computer.
Well, garage bands are different. I
mean the platform that Apple has, where you can just program a couple of things. You get a bass and then a drum kit.
Well, I was in a garage band. Seriously.
Yeah.
I used to practice in our garage. And I remember in the summer in my neighborhood, we'd lift up the garage door. It was summer. It was great at night. And all the girls and kids would come by and listen. Because, there weren't that many bands in those days. It's not like today. I think in my high school, there was maybe 2 bands. And we were kind of not pariah. But, we weren't like pulling the chicks. The jocks did. We hated the jocks, And they were getting the girls. We were kind of the suffering artist, wearing Beatle boots and pea coats. Everyone wanted to be the Beatles or the Rolling Stones or the Kinks. Yeah. Well, that's the new version of the school. I went to the old version of Lincoln. And I went back there for my 40th high school reunion a long time ago. And thank God for name tags. I said, who's this girl walking? Hey, Frank, I was in your class. And I look at it, I go, oh, my God, she was like the hottest chick in high school.
Yeah.
She looks like a mashed potato sculpture. I don't even recognize her.
Yeah.
And the guys you thought that were really cool, like the jocks, you see them now, they're 5'8", but you thought when you were a kid, guy weighed 135, 140 pounds in high school, had this thick curly hair. And that's what I was into, man. I was into being a rock star. That's what I was into. I wasn't into playing sports. I didn't want to be a fireman. I didn't want to be a cop. I wanted my band. So we thought of ourselves as very exclusive, man, because there weren't, I'm telling you, there were very few bands around. And my high school had 4,000 kids. I think there was myself, George Manny, maybe 2 or 3 groups. 2 or 3. We couldn't play clubs. I mean, I started playing clubs underage, but they weren't so much. Yeah, they were bars. You weren't supposed to play, but we did, those days. And, our parents would drop us off.
Yeah.
My drummer, Mark, it was the only guy who could drive. And he had a Chevy 2 wagon. We could put all our equipment in that little station wagon, and he would drive us to and from. So I never got caught up in the drug world. I wasn't into that. So I didn't, of course, like every kid, you tried, let's try this weed. It was halfway all seeds. I remember first time we did it, we were 15. And all we did was giggle and laugh, act stupid, and then fall asleep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
right.
that was the 60s. I mean, it's you get caught with a nickel bag of marijuana, then you're going to prison. It's not like today where guys are sitting on the street. But I never got into the drug culture. I mean, there were guys that were sniffing glue and taking speedballs, like meth. I wasn't into that, And that's why I think I'm fairly healthy today. I was always into since the early 70s. I was always into health foods. I used to bring Tupperware, make beet salads and stuff. So I was into that. Like Paul Bragg, Paul Bragg was one of the early health enthusiasts. Him and Bernard McFadden before him.
Okay.
and they said you got to eat vegetables. I was taking vitamins, desiccated liver, lecithin, but in the early 70s, when there was maybe one or two vitamin shops in the whole city.
No,
that wasn't like it is now. No. And my brother and I used to go to the gym. It was either Jackal Lane's or Vic Tanny's or one of those gyms. There weren't that many gyms. In New York City, I think there was the Y and then Mid-City Gym.
Right.
And then they opened a Jackal Lane's or a Vic Tanny's or one of those things like that. But there weren't. So my brother and I, you know how much a membership was? I think it was like $25 a year or something like stupid like that. And we used to go to the gym, no gym clothes, just sweatpants. And we used to buy those. Remember those engineer gloves, like with the big cuffs? They're like striped. They're gray. You know, when you see like people would work on the trains, those big, we'd wear those. No, now they got fancy gloves with the cut off fingers and the Velcro.
Yes. Yeah.
And we just wear, and we'd walk down the street. You know, I started working out with my brother, and I swear to God, we had these T-shirts called beefy tees that were kind of stretch T-shirts. People, God, go away. No. People used to look at us on the street like we were like, oh my God. And we weren't that big. We were like maybe 15-inch arms, 16. But the average person didn't work out. The average guy probably had 12-inch arms. You know, people weren't like, you know what I mean? It was really rare to see someone that was like in shape and young. You know, we had hair down to here, and we're all cut.
I got a big hair picture of you right here. This is 80s, right? You got your tiger.
I'll tell you exactly where that was. That was in Atlantic City. That was right after, it might be right after Staying Alive. And we were there. That's when Sly managed that fighter, Lee Canalito. So we were in Atlantic City. I remember we saw her father there. And my brother gave me that shirt. I wish I still had that shirt. It was a tiger shirt.
Yeah.
It was all like a tiger. That was about 84, maybe 85. Yeah, in Atlantic City at the Sands. They were having fights down there. So that was in the hotel. That was
10 years earlier, right, when you're just getting into boxing, all that kind of taking care of yourself and, realizing that this is a little bit different. Nautilus had gyms every now and then.
Oh, are you kidding?
Right?
The Dan Laurie gym we went to was all Nautilus machines. They just came out. They were great. The old Nautilus, they were all blue. They had some free weights, but most of the equipment in the gym was all Nautilus stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was great. That stuff was, man, that stuff had like a bicycle chain but they were really designed well. They were great.
Yeah, completely agree. They were very movement specific.
Yeah.
Which there was the universal machines that had there was a bench and
I didn't like the universal
lat
machine
pull down and maybe a leg extension machine, but
it was made by Macy or something like that. I remember they had one of those. I didn't care for those that much.
Yeah, those were. That was designed by somebody who probably never worked out.
No,
you know what I mean,
but
let's see if we can combine and get all this space and put a bunch of different stuff in one little small area with one stack of plates that you can load it with. I
remember Arnold said, we were sitting there, it was Arnold, Sly, and I. Goes, who has the greatest body of all time? And they both at the same time, Steve Reeves. The greatest body. He was so genetically perfect. That's what I'm saying. He looked like Tony Curtis. He was great looking, had 18-inch calves, 18-inch arms, 18-inch neck, 52-inch chest, 28-inch waist. You remember the old Hercules movie? He was genetically perfect. And even Arnold said that. And that's before all the use of like D-ball and steroids. He was amazing looking. These guys now, they got extended stomachs from all the growth hormone. It's not attractive. In those days, like Frank Zane and Steve Reeves. Yeah, even Arnold's body. But compared to the guys now, they got these big stomachs. And it's just, they're too big. It's not attractive. Yeah, you can't wear clothes.
When he first came from Austria, and he's just still a teenager.
Yeah.
And winning a couple of competitions. But very soon afterwards, his proportion had never been seen before. In other words, a guy with 56-inch shoulder width.
Oh, he
and
was huge.
a 28-inch waist. That it was unbelievable. And you see these girls at the beach, and they just want to touch him to see if he was alive, right?
And
just
Lou Ferrigno was bigger than Arnold.
Oh, he was a massive good dude. God,
Lou was big.
Thick. Oh, Lou was amazing.
Huge.
We've had Lee Haney on.
too.
Lee wins 8 Mr. Olympias, and then Coleman wins 8 Olympias. You're
and
right.
Lou never won. Lou got ripped off. He should have won a Mr. Olympia. Because let me tell you something. Lou was more famous than Arnold before Arnold was. Remember, he was on, what do you call it? The show. What was the show where he was all green?
Yeah, the Incredible Hulk.
The Hulk.
Yeah, with Bill Bixby.
Yeah. So he was more famous before Arnold. Arnold hadn't done really any movies then. The Hulk was like a #1 TV show, and Lou was big. Sergio Oliva was freaky big. But he wasn't tall, but no one had forearms and biceps like Sergio Oliva. Nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but the guys now, they're just too big. It's like even in football, some of these guys are just so big. It's like if you look at guys like, what was that guy's name? Remember, Bob, that running back? He was great. White guy. Remember Hugh McElhenney?
Oh, yeah.
Great, man. This
Hey,
guy,
tell-
he was
tell-
shifty.
Hey, Harper,
What's wrong with
tell
his
him
mic?
Tell him Freddie Roach used to
hear him
love to
talk.
see these big bodybuilders come in. Can you hear me, Harper?
Yeah, Freddie Roach used to say these big bodybuilders would come in. Go ahead, Bob.
With their and he said he'd love to see a bantamweight Mexican just kick the shit out of him in there.
Yeah, they can't fight.
He said these big guys would come in, and then a bantamweight Latino player or a boxer would come in and just kick their butts.
Oh yeah, because their body's not made for that. They're too muscle bound. They're tight. They don't snap their punches. They push them. Now, when this airs,
Harper,
are you gonna be able to hear
he's
his
got
voice?
me muted. Frank's got me muted. Can you hear me, Frank?
He cannot.
No,
Tell
when
him
this
he's got me
airs,
muted.
when you air, or is it aired now?
Yes, it is. We're live. Yeah, absolutely.
Can the people hear his voice?
I can hear Bob, so I believe everybody can hear. Just for some reason, you can't hear him. Go ahead, Bob. You were going to say one other
He
thing.
has me muted. Tell Frank he's got me muted.
You might have. Well, I don't know how he mutes just you.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how because he can hear me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob. Though, what were you going to ask him?
No, I was just going to tell him about what
Because I didn't touch anything. I don't know what the hell's going on.
I
It
just
has
told
my
him
mic here.
what Freddie Roach used to say that he would love to see these guys come in, these big steroided out bodybuilders.
Now you can hear me, right?
Well, yeah, we can hear you, Frank. Yeah, we can hear you. The only problem we have right now is you can't hear Bob. Bob can hear you, but you can't hear him.
Well,
So
I hope the
Freddie Roach,
people
go
in the
ahead, Bob.
audience can hear.
Yes, they can hear Bob, but you can't. So go
Okay.
ahead, Bob, real quick.
No, I was just saying what Freddie Roach used to love to see these guys come in, these big bodybuilders, steroided out, and then just have some bantamweight Mexican just kick the living crap out of them.
Yeah. Bob was just repeating the fact that Freddie Roach would see these gigantic, bodybuilding, steroid guys that would come in, and then smaller guys would be able to beat him up all the time.
I saw that when I was doing the show. I was one of the people involved in the Contender, and we go to all these different towns. We were looking for fighters to fight for the show for $1 million. And these guys would come in like juice heads. I mean, they'd come in like all roided out with spray tan. And I said, you ever box? No, I've had 1 million street fights. I said, yeah, but that's not boxing. So I said, okay. And I put him in the ring with like 140-pound, like Mexican sparring partner. And every time it never failed. Like within 45 seconds, these guys are chasing these little guys around. They run out of gas. And then the guy starts taking them apart. Body shots. And that's it.
Yeah.
And they get punched out.
Well, like you said earlier, Frank, it's very interesting. A guy like Sugar Ray Leonard wasn't in any street fights. Didn't need to be, right? But he knew how he was a technician and
he was a good puncher.
And a tactical guy that could figure somebody out, whether it be in a bar or in the street or in a restaurant.
Well, he'd hit you so you wouldn't even see it coming. He would smash your face in.
Yeah.
I mean, even a guy like Danny Little Red Lopez didn't look like he had a muscle in his body. He'd hit you. You would be seeing stars. He'd knock you stiff.
Yeah.
De La Hoya looks like nothing. I said he'd kill you. He's a world champion. These guys, the guys get that liquor courage and stuff. I remember my stepfather told me, Tony, he was in a bar like Rocky Marciano used to, travel around stuff. So when Rocky wasn't training, he would blow up. He'd get like 210 pounds. He's kind of fat, right? And there's always some guy at a bar. Hey, you're not so big. You don't look that tough. And Rocky would turn to my stepfather and go, isn't it funny, Tony? Everyone can kick my ass.
Yeah.
How stupid you have to be to go up to the Brockton Blockbuster. He'd kill you. Like if Ernie Shavers or George Foreman hit you in the street, you'd probably have a brain hemorrhage. You'd probably die. Probably kill you.
Yeah.
That kind of power. Or Mike Tyson, they would crush your head.
Yeah.
I told Bob.
Stay in your lane. Just stay in your lane, folks.
Be nice and polite. A guy like Chuck Liddell, he'd kill you. He'd break your neck in like 2 seconds. I mean, it's not cowardly to say, okay, I ain't got this. This is, I apologize. I'm 75 years old. I mean, these other guys, they just are always looking for a fight. And I said, one day it's going to be a guy that looks like a nothing and he's going to clean your clock. It's like a 21-year-old guy that's like an MMA guy or a jiu-jitsu guy. He'll throw you through the wall.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or a guy like Dan Gable. I said, do you see his ears? Hello.
That's when you run. That's when you run.
Two
You run.
cauliflower ears and a big neck.
Yep.
Chances are he's a wrestler. Like, do you remember Bob Bull Montana?
Oh, yeah.
He says, absolutely.
Bull Montana was an Italian guy, and he was a wrestler, like in the era of like Ed Strangler Lewis. They would break your neck. They'd kill you. Even I talked to Gene LaBelle. He knew all those guys. He goes, Frank, they would grab you like Frank Gotch or George Hackenschmidt. They'd break you in half. Or like Lou Thez. You'd have about 1 second, and that'd be it.
Yep. Lou Thez was up.
They would snap you in half.
Bob says, Lou, finish up, Bob. Lou what? What were you saying?
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Baron Leone. Ask him if he remembers Baron Leone.
Baron Leone. Do you remember him, Frank?
Yeah. They're all real wrestlers. Jim Londos.
Yep.
Even a guy like Gorgeous George. He was still a carnival wrestler. He's a real wrestler. He wasn't that big, but he'd mess you up, man. It'd kill you. They'd grab you in a hammerlock, and they'd break your spine. I mean, a guy like I did a show called Hulk Hogan's Wrestling Show, and I didn't like to wrestle at all because I hate that, right? Anyway, I was on the show with Brutus Beefcake. They were like kind of supervised, Nasty Knobs, and these guys. They look like they're fat. Let me tell you something. They get across that ring in like a half a second.
Yep.
They're fat, and even though yes, it's staged, but they all get hurt. I mean, they're limping. I said they're fantastic athletes, and you wouldn't have a shot. They would have you in 2 seconds, and they would cripple you. I mean, they go, well, how about if I hit him? I said, yeah, how about if you hit him and he just looks at you and then grabs you or Gene LaBelle, he'd snap your head. I mean, it's not hard to break someone. They break your neck in like 2 seconds. Yeah, it's not even, you know what? It's better to be the nice guy. It's better to be a gentleman.
100%.
And if I've been around people, Bob will probably know about this. There's some people, they're nice guys, but when they drink, they get mean and they get weird. I was at dinner one night, just having a dinner, talking with some people with my manager at the time, and the other guy having a conversation. As the night goes on, he's drinking. He's like, every time I say something, he'd like chime in like, oh, yeah, you think you should. Oh, yeah. With this blank look in his face. And I knew this is where it was going. I said, well, listen, man, I got an early call tomorrow. Thank you for dinner. I'll talk to you later. This guy was just itching for a fight.
Yep.
Okay. So it's better just to diffuse the thing, be a gentleman, and walk away. Yep. What's the point?
Yeah.
Now, there's some guys, if they did that too, they would smash their face in. If you did that to someone like Chuck Liddell, that would be a big mistake. That would not go over well. Or like Boom Boom Mancini, they would clean your clock real quick.
Yeah.
But most of those guys are all gentlemen. They're really nice, but you get some people when they drink, they get mean and they're itching for a fight. and they usually end up getting their ass kicked.
100%.
It's liquid courage.
Happens a lot. If you don't mind me going back from a music standpoint, real quick, just the singing, the songwriting.
Yeah.
You began with "Take Me Back," right? And just your scene.
Well, that was for the movies, yeah,
right?
But I had bands since 1965, so that was like almost 11 years later.
And what was your genre? Were you just like a cover band, or were you putting original?
No. When I started, we were somewhat of a cover band, but then I started writing it like 16, 17, around that era. No, when we started, but we didn't play like songs everyone was playing. We were really into like the Youngbloods, the Buffalo Springfield, Moby Grape, stuff like that. We were more into that kind of stuff. We weren't into like playing the hits. We played some hits like Knock on Wood, stuff like that people wanted to hear. Or we'd play Stones like Satisfaction, 19th Nervous Breakdown. We played that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But we didn't play we weren't like a bar band that played like when disco came out. We didn't play that shit.
Yeah.
We played like Seals and Crofts. But we played like Brown Sugar by the Stones and stuff. And then we'd add our own stuff because we were writing. We wanted to get a record deal. We didn't want to be a bar band. And people ask me what comes first, the music or with me, the music always comes first. And then it depends. Like I think I've been on a writing block, but when I go to the studio, I went to Nashville, I popped out 2 songs right away because you're into the vibe. But the thing is now, no one's really doing soundtracks unless they're doing the orchestrations. It's not like in the 80s, Kenny Loggett, Mike McDonald, everyone was getting songs for movies. So that's gone. So basically, it's not inspiring. There's some people every day, they always have a notepad. They're always writing down lyrics. They're always playing. And I'm going, well, who am I playing it for?
Right. It's
kind of a dead industry now. I mean, you see what's going on with the charts. It's all like Taylor Swift. I don't play that music. I just don't do it. Country is probably the last bastion of like singer-songwriter stuff.
Hey, Harper, ask him about the fact that the movie stars will become extinct. What does he think of AI and the movie business? I want to hear what he says about that.
Frank, your opinion from Bob is asking about AI and the movie business and how that's changing acting, right before our very eyes. And
well, it's terrifying.
Go ahead.
Well, it's terrifying because they could actually create an actor. They could, from nothing, they could get someone, a little bit of Robert Redford, a little bit of Clark Gable, a little bit of Paul Newman, and they could put together this actor.
Yeah.
And it would look as
real.
Real.
Too much Robert Redford. Take back a little, take 5% away and literally come up with a model of.
Yeah. So
ahead.
They can make a guy that's extraordinarily handsome, well-built, and you can't tell the difference. It's gotten to the point, I could be AI talking right now. You couldn't even tell the difference. And what that will do, that will put actors out of work. So why should we pay this actor $12 million? We can just create this guy and put him in an acting role in the movie.
And writers, Harper writers.
And,
Here's one of my concerns about that, Frank, if you don't mind. And Bob wanted to know about the writers as well. Here's my thing as a viewer. I'm not going to the box office if I don't know if I know it's AI generated. I have the ability with my dollar to spend it or not spend it, and I may not want to do that. I'd rather watch Robert Redford than this is with guitars too. If you don't mind, real quick, I'm gonna change the subject just a little bit. Mm-hmm. Fender came out. I thought it was called the Fire Stick. I think I'm wrong. My mother, when I started playing guitar, sent me an article when I lived in Atlanta from the LA Times, and Gibson had a plant out in Thousand Oaks or Simi Valley, and they created this guitar. And instead of putting pickups and electrical switches and wires in it, they put a computer chip in it, and you could hook it up into any of the amps that you wanted to, and it would sound like a 59 Les Paul or a 62 Stratocaster or a Telecaster from 1955. The thing that they struggled with was you could sound exactly like Eric Clapton if you wanted to, or Jimi Hendrix, but
Yeah.
Eric Clapton wouldn't even play it. He wanted to play the 59 Les Paul. So it sold very few units because I would rather wait and get the vintage, the real guitar, than play something that if I just push a couple of buttons, it sounds just like the other one. Does that make sense to you, the way I'm putting that together?
Yeah, I have an amp like that. I mean, for practicing stuff,
Right.
I can go to my laptop and say, okay, I want this amp to sound like it's by playing a real Les Paul or a real Telecaster, but the amp will sound like Jimi Hendrix in Purple Haze or Foxy Lady, or it'll sound like you said, a 58 Bandmaster or Bassman. Yeah.
Or Tweed,
Tweed amp. Yeah,
Fender.
Fender Tweed amp. Yeah, but what happens
okay,
now is but if you look at Jeff Beck, never used a pedal board. Never.
No.
Roy Buchanan, never. Hendrix, all he had was a fuzz face and a wah-wah. But he had 2 Marshall stacks and he's loud.
Right.
Some guys, but now, I mean, basically all I have, if I go on to play, I have a digital delay, which just makes it a little thing, and I have like one overdrive thing and a and a tuner. That's it.
Okay.
And
sometimes no Fuzzbuster. You don't have
no.
Gosh, I can't even think of the name of all the different pedal boards, and people have all kinds of different stuff.
Oh, they got
reverb.
20 pedals.
Yeah.
I said, what am I doing? Am I doing adagio dancing or am I playing guitar? I can't keep up with that stuff.
Yeah.
So the only reason, because if you play in a smaller place, you can't turn up that loud. So maybe you'll have a kind of a distortion booster that kind of gives you a little more dirt at a lower volume. But look at B.B. King, Freddie King. They didn't play it. They didn't use any pedals. They plug in and turn it up and get the sound.
Yeah.
And B.B. King, this is amazing. B.B. King is probably the father of modern electric blues guitar. He never played any chords. Never played. He goes, notes. I get paid for the notes I don't play. He was very sparse when he played, but he put it in the right spot.
Yep.
These other guys I can't remember what they're even playing.
BB did something. He did a lesson, I guess you could say, and he's with another guy, and he goes, there's some guys they have a lot faster fingers than I do. They play really fast compared to what I do, but I just let each note sing. I let every note, and that was his style. And God bless him, he stayed within his range. He didn't.
But he's copied by everybody.
I know.
Freddie King, Albert Collins, BB. Now that's more of the electric. Then you get into the urban country blues. You get Big Bill Brunsey, Lightning Hopkins. That's more acoustic. I can't play that fast. I just can't. I mean, I see guys like Joe Saccherini or like Alan Holdsworth. My hands don't move like that. I just Eddie Van Halen, great guitar player. Don't get me wrong. My hands don't go like that. I mean, you listen to George Harrison. He doesn't rip, but you remember everything he played. Or James Burton. You remember those guitar lines. Even what's his name? John Fogerty from Creedence. You remember every boom, you remember all those guitar lines because they fit within the song. If you're just playing 30 notes a bar, you're not going to remember. It's just like it's showing off. Yeah. Look at Billy Gibbons on ZZ Top. He doesn't shred. He just put like dark, sharp dressed man. But you remember it. Eric Clapton. Sunshine of Your Love. But you remember those lines. Jimmy Page, Black Dog. They can play fast if they want to, but not like these others. They're not like shredders. They're not like sitting there playing like getting paid by the note.
Sometimes less is more. Go ahead, Bob. Bob's talking about Davy Johnson with
Davy Johnson with Elton John is a fantastic guitarist.
Yeah, Bob has lunch with Davy all the time.
Davy Johnson from Elton John?
Yes, he's been with him for 15 years. Yeah, he is.
But he doesn't shred. He plays what is needed. I mean, born at it, well, the bitch. He plays in the pocket. My friend John Jorgensen, who's an incredible guitar player, he can play anything. He played with Elton. I think when Davy might have taken a sabbatical or something, but great player. Now he can, if he wants to, he can shred, man. He can do all that chicken picking country stuff. He's a great player. But Davey Johnson puts it right where he doesn't have to overplay.
Right. There's so many disciplines too. You mentioned earlier that you didn't go to a music school and the theory and all that kind of stuff. No. When you got guys like B.B. King or Clapton or any of the greats that you have mentioned,
they don't read music.
And with all due respect, they may not know a Spanish gut string style or more classical stuff. They know some of it, but I'm just saying there's so many different ways that you can play a Bakersfield country, a Nashville country. There's so many different genres of just the guitar playing alone. You can go your whole life and not learn half of what exists and what some people are able to do.
Well, listen to Merle Haggard and Chet Atkins or Jerry Reed or Glenn Campbell. Couldn't read a note. George Benson, probably one of the great jazz, can't read a note of music. Buddy Rich, can't read music. So it's either feel, it's your ears. Like my songs, like I'll just make up these chords. I don't exactly know if it's a flatted fifth. I don't know, but it is. So when they transpose my chords into music, it's like if you told me to play that chord, I wouldn't know it. I wouldn't know it, but I can play it because I wrote it. So, and Paul McCartney says the same thing. It just sounds good. That's all.
Yeah.
And then I know people, there's an old saying, they can read shit on flypaper. They can read anything. Couldn't write a song if you held a gun to it. But they're first chair violinists. I mean, they're doctorates in music.
Right.
They can play anything, but they're not writers. Irving Berlin played like 5 chords on the black keys. No, seriously. He had a piano. He had a thing underneath that transposed the music from B flat. Well, I need to change it to D and he just played the black
transpose
keys.
It. Right. Okay.
And one of the most successful songwriters in the history of music.
Yeah.
Now, George Gershwin could read music. No, I mean, still one of my favorites. Favorite songs is Rhapsody in Blue or Concerto in F or American in Paris. I mean, he's great, but he's a great pianist and but he knew music theory. He studied. Cole Porter could read music. Some guys can, some guys can't, but they're great songwriters. I mean, it just goes on and on. I mean, James Taylor probably doesn't read music. Probably. I mean, I can read, in other words, a chord chart. But as far as like writing, like actually on a piece of sheet music with the flats and the sharps,
right?
I can't do it.
Yeah,
I wish I could. I've seen guys. I remember when I did my big band album, Sammy Nestico, one of the great, probably the most studied in any music school, his charts. Okay. We're on the plane going to Toronto to do my big band album. So we're talking like full orchestra, right? I swear to God, he's sitting on the plane. Like I see him going, I mean, sharps and fifths, and he's writing the whole chart out. No music, just here. Billy May, the same thing. Nelson Riddle, they could just sit there and write. They heard it in their head. Think of Beethoven. They didn't have tape recorders. They sat there and wrote from their heart. They visualized it. They hit the piano, go, oh, okay, and they visualized it, and they suffered. They suffered for it. I mean, it's not easy to create something from nothing. A piece of blank music paper, like Billy Joel says, it was terrifying for me. I'd sit there. I got to write an album. I'm sitting at the piano. I'm staring at this piece of sheet music, and I have no idea what I'm going to do or where it's going to go. But I have to create something from nothing. So it's amazing to me. It's like writers like Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe was dead 20 years before the Civil War. And you write The House of Usher, The Raven, Telltale Heart. Where'd that come from? With a pen and quill, a quill,
right?
On parchment paper. Or people look at the handwriting. You look at the Declaration of Independence. Where did they come up with these thoughts?
Yeah.
And if you go on YouTube, you'll see some their early talkies, maybe 1929. Guy is there going, I was born in 1841, and he's like 98 years old. You hear him talk? No, very plain. Well, when I fought in the Civil War, we were in Virginia.
Yep.
And then we went here. It's not like they don't say like, well, you know, like when I did it, you know what I mean? All they had in those days was conversation and reading. So if you wanted to know something, you had to talk to somebody. That's why people said we'd gather on the porch, they play music, and they have conversation. So they had social skills, and they read. There was no entertainment. There was no radio. There was no telegraph then. There was nothing. Maybe a newspaper you'd get maybe a week later or something like that. So that's why they sounded articulate, because they had to, everything was spoken word.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen, Harper. Nowadays, cell phones and computers,
What'd
these
he say?
kids have no way to communicate.
He says nowadays it's so much different where kids with cell phones and computers, they don't articulate. They don't communicate the same way at all.
They have no social skills. Just eavesdrop on a conversation. Well, you know, and I have video of Jack Johnson talking. You'd think he's like a doctor. Well, when I was fighting in my career, he didn't say like, yo, what's up, man? Let me ask you something. They didn't speak like, look at Archie Moore. Very articulate.
Yeah.
Very articulate speaking.
Yeah.
Ray Robinson spoke very clear.
Yep.
They didn't speak with like, yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, or I X. So they didn't talk like that. And you know, guys talking like that. They spoke very clear. They were very conscious of their clothing, because I remember as a kid, my mom just always said, "Don't ever go out without your shoes shined," because people look at your feet. Wait, the guy's a bum. Remember, like, clean behind your ears. Don't grow potatoes in your ears. Brush your teeth. So these people were very, even though they weren't educated in a sense, most people went to the 7th grade. They had to work.
Yep.
So, you know, so, but what they did, they read. They read books. Gene Tunney was reading, you know, Longfellow. That's why a lot of fighters didn't like him. They thought he was like a snob. But he used to hang out with George Bernard Shaw. Gene Tunney was, if you hear him talk, he sounds like a doctor. Well, when I was fighting, and he's from like the Village in New York, you know, turn of the century. Or you listen to those guys talk. Listen to Henry Armstrong. Very articulate. They didn't use slang or ebonics, things like that. They spoke very clear. And these guys had no education, because basically there was no education to get. If you came from a poor family, when you were old enough to work, you either sold papers. A lot of fighters were sold papers on the corner, getting in fights. Yeah, I mean, that's you know, they took a lot of pride in themselves. They dressed well. They presented themselves well as professionals. Same thing with acting. If you look at the Academy Awards now, half the girls look like they're on a stripper pole. You look in the old days, they're always well-dressed, manicured, because they were professionals, because it was like this. And well, you know, Bob was with Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney was, for 5 years, the #1 star. And he was part of MGM, the family. So when you went out there and you look like a slob, you'd probably get called into Louis B. Mayer's office to say, hey, when you're out there looking like this, you're representing MGM. You're representing us. And we don't like how that is. So they would tell you maybe who to date, who not to be. Don't be around that person. He's no good. Because you worked for them.
Tell him MGM did not want Mickey
What's Bob saying?
marrying Ava Gardner.
Bob was with Mickey for so many years, and he said that MGM would tell him that he didn't want him
to marry Ava Gardner.
Yeah, didn't want it. That it wasn't a good look for them.
No, I mean, and if you were gay like Tab Hunter or all these other, they kept it quiet. They said, okay, we're gonna make it like you're dating this girl.
Yep.
Okay, and then or like Rock Hudson.
Yeah.
You know, you're dating Marilyn Maxwell. You're planning on getting married. Of course, they knew they were gay. I mean, Tab Hunter, all those guys, but they kept it quiet.
Yep.
Yeah. The image was incredibly important.
The image was totally important. And if Hedda Hopper or someone did something like that, it'd be very simple. The studio say, you will never, ever, ever get an interview from an MGM actor again.
Yeah.
You're banned from the lot. Never. That's what happened with Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane was about William Randolph Hearst, basically. And the Hearst chain owned all the newspapers around the country. And that's why the movie didn't do well. And hardly anyone saw it when it came out, because William Randolph Hearst made it very plain. If that movie comes out, you will never, ever advertise in any of our papers around the country, ever. And that would be death to the studios, because the Hearst chain was, you know, worldwide, nationwide.
Yep.
And that's who ran the show, you know, and that's how it was. So you had to behave. You got in fights. You acted up. You were disrespectful. You looked sloppy. You would definitely be called into the front office for sure. For sure.
Well, the mob didn't want him to make The Godfather.
The mob didn't want to make The Godfather. Don't make a movie.
I know they didn't.
Yeah.
You see all that movie, The Offering.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they had to change stuff. They couldn't mention the word mafia. They couldn't say certain things because they would shut them down. They ran the union.
Yeah.
They said that nothing's moving. Like if Jimmy Hoffa got a bug up his ass, he goes, hey, we're like my brother did the movie Fist. We control everything on wheels. Anything that floats or on wheels, we control it.
Right.
And we shut it down. That's it. The Teamsters just go on strike and nothing goes. So they had a lot of power then, you know,
Yeah.
and those studios like Lou Wasserman, these guys that ran these studios, they had a lot of political juice and they had a lot of power. And it's very simple. All you have to do is behave, do your job, go home, have a drink or whatever, relax, you know, chase girl. All you got to do is behave and don't make us look bad. And I carry that over with me in acting. I've done over 96 movies. Never show up late. Never. If anything, I show up early. I never show up late. I don't cause any problems on the set. You know your lines, and you act as a professional. You know, people don't want to hear your problems. They got enough problems. They're trying to make a movie. You got the first DP and the directors. They don't want to hear your outside problems. You know, come do your work. Like Jimmy Cagney says, plant your feet, look the guy in the eye, and tell the truth. That's it. You know, you want to bring all your neuroses to the set. And that's why a lot of actors, which I will leave nameless, that were very big, you don't see them working anymore. It's not worth it.
Right.
They're a pain in the ass. They slow production down. Tony Curtis used to tell me, he goes, when Marilyn, we were doing something high, she was driving Billy Wilder nuts.
Yeah.
She'd show up 2 hours late. Then she'd be in the dressing room for an hour and a half. And they're ready to go. They're ready to shoot. They hated that. They go, we liked her, but she was a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Tough to work with, right? And
Well, you're slowing down the production of the movie.
Somebody who's not so tough to work with, and you'll be just fine. But you show up on time,
Do your job, know your lines. And what's so hard about that? You're getting paid a tremendous amount of money. So I don't want to hear people go, well, it's really hard life. Yeah, but it would be harder if you weren't working. So I hear these people, touring's really tough. Yeah, it is tough, but you're getting paid millions and millions of dollars to do that. So yeah, it's either that or, you know, it's hard being famous. Yeah, but it's harder not being famous and wanting to be famous or wanting your music to be heard or your songs. You know, all these other guys, you know what, man, the business is all commercial. I go, excuse me. The Beatles were commercial. I think they're respected. Frank Sinatra was commercial. The Rolling Stones were commercial. But you don't want to be commercial. That means basically no one's ever going to hear your music.
Right.
Because you're somewhat of a pompous ass. And no one's going to hear your music because it's too commercial. What's wrong with being commercial? It just means people get to hear and enjoy your music.
Yeah. Frank, a few years ago, I listened, I do the Georgia State games. Dave Cohen is the play-by-play. He's seen Kiss over 63 times in his life.
They're
right?
very professional.
Well, So one day we're getting ready to do a game, and we're watching TV, and Dan Rather is interviewing Gene Simmons.
Yeah.
And says Dan says, Gene, how's the music business changing? And Gene's wearing the dark glasses, and he's got
I think I saw that. Yeah.
And he says, Dan, I'm pretty lucky. I'm rich. And I got to be rich in this business. But if I were in a young band right now, if I were a teenager or a young kid, and I was playing in like you were in a garage, I don't know how I'd make it anymore because there's no money in it. There's no way to make money unless you have a bunch of CDs, which you can't even play anymore, in the back of the trunk of your car. How do you get commercialized? How do you how do you cut a record? How do you get heard? How do you do something original? It's so difficult now in different ways than what it was for me. We just worked hard, and we had one person say yes, we played well, and then another person saw us and we said yes to them, and we played well in front of their venue. But
you had the support of the label. You had A&R guys. You had a whole publicity department. I was on RCA, and you would go out and you do the radio tour.
Yes.
All these parallel one stations promoting your record. You had record promoters. They don't have it now. A kid will just do a song and put it up online for streaming and make a fortune. That's what they do now. They can sit in their home with Pro Tools and make whatever they want to make. They don't need a record label anymore. I mean, there are no labels. I remember when I lived in New York, New York City, you'd walk around. You'd see Columbia Records. You'd see RCA Records, these massive buildings. In the lobbies, these giant lobbies with light boxes with, Robert Goulet, Chicago, this or that. It was a big business then. And you had A&R guys, artist development. And, you had all that stuff going for you. And that's how you got a record played. Now, if you look at all the big groups, they don't make albums anymore. I think the Stones made an album, but that's the Stones. Yeah. But it's not like you can go in Tower Records. Go online.
Doesn't exist.
Online. Go to cdbaby.com or something. Yeah. That's how I sell records now. I make more money on cdbaby.com than I made when I had records. Where you get like 4 cents an album or thing. Now you get like $6 a song or something, like, if they want to download your songs. But the business has changed, and you are absolutely right. Bob Dylan wouldn't get a record deal now, or Joni Mitchell, or no way. They just wouldn't. If I went on, what's that thing called, American Idol, and I was Bob Dylan, there's no way you would win.
You wouldn't even get asked to go to Hollywood, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you're talking about one of the great songwriters of all time. Or if you were Cat Stevens, you probably wouldn't win. It's all fluff. I mean, I look at these shows now, like at the Grammys, they're like Vegas reviews. We weren't into that stuff, man. We'd laugh at these people on stage. You look at Janis Joplin, like All Heart and Soul, or like the Allman Brothers, or stuff like that. That's what you're listening to, stuff like that. And, the Stones, the Byrds. Now it's like the dancers and, pyrotechnics and stuff. The only one that made that really work great was Michael Jackson. He had it. But again, he was a pro. He was born into this stuff. He was great when he was 5 years old. So he knew the business. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But for his show, it worked though, because that was his show. But I mean, I saw him go on stage without all that stuff when he did Off the Wall, his first album, like solo album. He was just singing and dancing, but he always danced and sang.
Right.
But now it became, when he did Thriller and Bad, those albums, it became a big production. Like if you took Taylor Swift or some of these groups and you took away all the production and she had to go on stage like Joni Mitchell with one guitar, forget it. Forget it. I can't do it. I tried to have someone, hey, let's do it. I said, I can't work like that. I can't go, when I'm singing, go to this spot because this key light's here, or this thing's going to explode, or dancers are going to come out. I said, I don't roll like that. I can't do it, But all these things are staged. Like you see Bruce Springsteen, who I can't stand, never liked him. His show, everyone's the same. it makes it look like, yeah, man, he's like really, this is all like impromptu. No, it's all staged.
I'm right with you about Bruce Springsteen. I think he's a complete.
It's all staged music.
Complete.
Maybe it's my downfall, but I'm a purist, man. I've seen Frank Sinatra just go on stage with nothing, or Judy Garland, and they could totally capture the audience. They had it. Janis Joplin, Tina Turner, when she was playing high school dances with Ike and Tina Turner Review, she could do it, man. She could hold the audience. She didn't need all that stuff. Yeah, she had the dancers with her that sang background, and they had routines dancing, but it didn't matter. They could still do it, you know.
Well, I think the great thing about all of them that you mentioned, the music was the most important part, not the production. It's not the sizzle. No. It's the steak, and the steak was it was Sinatra. And you've done stuff with him, right? I mean, you know him, or
I know him. He announced me.
Bob knows him as well. I mean, you see him at Dodger games all the time.
Yeah,
you know what? Tell him this is my favorite Frank Sinatra story.
Real quick, Frank, go ahead. Go ahead, Bob.
Frank Sinatra, and I know Frank knows the story. Frank Sinatra was in the Fontainebleau Hotel in Florida, and they told us
the Fontainebleau Hotel in Florida. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah. That Bojack was in the men's room shining shoes.
Bojack was in the men's room shining shoes.
That's right.
Frank Sinatra went in the men's room and told Bojack, "I want to shine your shoes," and that's a true story. So,
and Sinatra went into the bathroom and said to Bojack, "I'm going to shine your shoes," and that's a true story. That happened, right? So, Frank was a real humble guy, and down to earth, and there are times where near the end of his career, he had a teleprompter on the four corners of his stage because he couldn't remember the lines. But you know what? He just delivered. And classy audience, men in black tie and tails and diamonds and everything. It was just a very interesting era.
There's only a few people like that. There's Frank Sinatra. There's Elvis Presley. There's Michael Jackson. Guys like that. They were the voice of. They were originals, and that's the way it was. But now, let me ask you: when we were doing the show, do people like write in or anything, or while you're doing it?
We do have some comments every now and then, depending on who's watching, and I will, just the content and.
Well, we've been on for 2 hours and 31 minutes.
I know. We want to be respectful of your time, Frank. I really do.
No, I wish I could hear Bob's voice, though.
I know. For whatever reason, something happened, and I know he just dropped off accidentally.
Will you tell Frank that I could sit here?
Probably unplug something without
tell
even
Frank I could listen to him for 12 hours straight, and I can't. What I can't believe is his intellect about everything. I mean, he can talk about
what did he say?
Boxing. We just heard the history of boxing, and we didn't even touch the surface. So he can do every fucking thing. It's just amazing. You can hear that music. He knows all these people I never heard of.
What did he say?
The guy, I don't think he ever went to college, but he's brilliant.
Yeah. What Bob was saying is that he could sit here for a couple of hours and keep going with what your intellect, your ability to reflect and talk about everything. Boxing, all of it, music, all these different artists that Bob doesn't even, he never even heard of, but yet your intellect and your ability to articulate and to share that, it's absolutely amazing.
Oh, that's very nice of Bob to say. But I'm an information junkie. That's probably why I never got married. I mean, I need information. I thrive on information. If I'm watching a movie, an old movie, and who's that actor? I'll stop it. I'll go in IMDb, or I'll get a book, or if I'm reading a book and someone's name comes up, maybe an old gangster like Chick Tricker, I'm going to stop and I'm going to look it up. Or if it's a word, like, there was what was it called? There were words like what's that word called? A pepper. There are all these words that people use, like turn of the century, like they call like a guy like a certain name. I want to know what that meant. Like here's one name.
J.J. Johnson.
I write them down.
Hey Harper,
I put them down in my thing, and I want to know.
J.J. Johnston?
Oh, I knew him very well.
Yeah,
he worked with Al Pacino. He was a boxing guy.
He worked with Al Pacino. He was a boxing guy.
We used to talk about all the time. We used to talk. we used to talk about it all the time. Yeah, JJ was a character. I liked him. He was just he could be a little rough sometimes, a little rough around the edges, but he was a good guy. And we talked about boxing.
And he knew the
He had-
history
he
of
had,
the
like,
wise guys.
Big ego.
He knew
And,
wise
like, he
guys
didn't-
like boxing.
like, if I knew more about a fighter, and he goes, "No, it didn't happen that way." I said, "Yeah, Bob, it did happen that way." But he was great. He was fantastic. And
Bob
he
shared he knew about the wise guys in the history of boxing. Like,
he knew. Oh, all the gangsters, these old gangsters. Oh yeah, he knew all about that stuff. We used to talk about it, like Al something, the Al Banghart. Oh, he knew all the great gangsters. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He was great with that stuff. It was wait, I gotta find the song, because they called this guy. He called, like, they didn't like Doc Kearns, who was Jack Dempsey's manager, and they used to call. Oh, here it is. Oh, like, here's some old words. The guy goes, the guy's a poltroon. A poltroon means a coward. Or, this is what they used to call Jack Kearns, because they didn't like him. They said, guy's a popinjay. You know what a popinjay mean? Like, turn of the century. A popinjay is a conceited, dresses extravagantly, like a big mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, a dandy. The guy's a popinjay.
He's a dandy. Wow.
Or a poltroon, or, like Jack London called Battling Nelson the abysmal brute. And of course, you know what that means: dreadful, appalling, like a wild animal.
The abysmal.
Yeah.
The abominable snowman, right? Something like that. Your vocabulary.
Didactic. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, there's so many. Here's one. She muddies the water so she appears deep.
Shakespeare, I believe, had a vocabulary somewhere in the realm of 40,000 words, where the average American today is under 18. You know what I mean? It's just, so he spoke
18,000. I think you're giving him a little too much credit there, Robert. But I mean, when you think about it, and what people like, I'm not into Shakespeare, but people my brother likes Shakespeare. That was one of the most, like, cowboys on the range. They remember these had these little books that they'd read Shakespeare, because Shakespeare was a humorist. You think about, yes, thou come to the way he speaks, but he's basically a humorist,
right?
I mean, he was kind of a Victorian version of Mark Twain. He was funny. Like Mark Twain, probably some of the greatest quotes. Mark Twain was brilliant. Or
the coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco.
That's right.
Yeah.
W.C. Fields on his gravestone. Better here than in Philadelphia. That's where he was from. So they all had what'd you say? He's so smart, you could write his name on a branding iron or an ice cube or something. But they all had the great sayings. Like Benjamin Franklin had great sayings. I mean, but again, it was the spoken word, because it was all interacting with other people. But, there's a book called American Aurora. If you ever get it, it's a thick book. It's about Benjamin Franklin Bach, who was Benjamin Franklin's nephew. And he had a newspaper in Philadelphia called the Aurora. And it would be like the National Enquirer of the time.
Okay.
And you read these things, he goes, as we saw John Adams walking down the street with his fat arse and his strumpet walking along. Oh, you'd be surprised to go, yes, there's Madison with his tart, and so he was like the National Enquirer, and he got put in prison under the Sedition Act. Because he was talking about stuff. They threw him in prison, Benjamin Franklin Bach. So. Wow. So people, it's been going on forever. It's like when they go trans, there's been people dressing up like women since the turn of for 200 years. Oscar Wilde. I mean, that's nothing new. I don't know if they cut their penises off and stuff like they're doing now, but There's been people. I remember when I was a kid. That guy's a guy. That guy's a fruitcake. See, that's how they talked. It's like
Right.
so. It's nothing new. All the stuff we're thinking. When I thought, man, I thought I knew everything when I was a kid. My father goes, I forgot more than you ever know. They had chicks. Jazz musicians were doing weed and blow in the 30s, 20s. Most of them died of alcoholism, like Bix Beiderbecke and Bunny Berrigan. They were dead at 32 years old. They partied hard, man. They had nothing else to do. They're on a bus 300 days out of the year. They would pick up chicks on the bus and stuff like that. And then there was, believe me, I got to tell you a great story. Wingy Manone was a one-armed trumpet player. And he had like a wooden arm, like to hold the trumpet, but he could, play. But he had one arm. That's why they called him Wingy Manone.
Yeah.
And he used to stash all his weed in his fake arm. Of course, you're not going to check in those days. Like if he's carrying all his marijuana or whatever he's doing, is Wingy Manone. So what happened was they're on the bus, and it's like when we used to tour, you get stir crazy. Then everything's like inside jokes, and you know what I mean? It's like a family. You're just breaking balls the whole time. So they're driving out in one of those buses in the 30s, and one guy yells out, okay, the bulls are coming. The bulls, the cops. They go, Wingy. Wingy takes his arm off and throws it out the window. And it lands in a field. And they went something like April Fools. And they had to stop the bus. All these guys had to get out of the bus like with their Zippo lighters in this cornfield to find his arm. Because he couldn't find his arm.
You got to get his arm.
Guys like that, they were always pulling pranks because they were stoned all the time. All they did was drink, chase women, and get high. That's it. There was nothing else to do.
They'd play and then they wouldn't play, right? You got to wait to go to the next place to go play again.
Yeah, they were on a tour bus, and there was another guy. What was his name? Not Wingy Manone. He was a famous. Oh, Joe Venuti. Joe Venuti was a great violinist in the big band era, plays things, but he was a practical joker, and he's the one. When they would do like stage shows, they'd have Roy Rogers come out, and then the musicians would come. No, in those days they'd hit the Keith circuit and stuff like that. I heard it's true because I've heard it from other people. He's backstage with his bow, and all of a sudden Trigger's there, the horse, and he starts touching Trigger's balls because he was a stallion with the bow. Unbeknownst to anybody, Roy Rogers goes, okay, Roy, you're on. He comes out, and, he'd come out and he'd rear up with the horse, Roy Rogers with Trigger. And the horse has like a boner this big. And he doesn't understand why everyone, the audience is going crazy, laughing. And, and man, they said, when he found out, I'm going to kill that goddamn Wingy Manone. So he got the horse excited. So when the horse reared up, he had this like boner like 4 feet long. Oh, they did all kinds of crazy stuff like that. They did. There was one guy, Stu Levine, was a great drummer, big band drummer, and he was an addict and everything. But I met him when he was older. He was clean, but he was great. Good looking guy, and he was a great player. So he goes, yeah, man. They brought us out one day. It was a show, and it was a tightrope act. And they said, listen, Stu, I want you to go out there, and while this girl's on this tightrope, we're walking across the stage up real high, we just want you to play a drum roll. So he's there, okay. He's like sunglasses on, like Stone. So she's walking, and he's just going, and she fell off. And when she hit the ground, he went, He did a double flam on the snare drum.
He crashed,
broke her neck or something like that. But
oh no,
yeah. But so it's nothing's changed. Guys were messing with girls in the turn of the century. I mean, there are always guys that were catching something in those days. They had penicillin on the road. These guys were getting. You never knew where you were going. They hit these one-horse towns around the stuff. But they're funny stories. I mean, even today, when I get together with a bunch of musicians, we sit there and talk about war stories, like we're talking about boxing and football. there's always stuff behind the scenes. Like, can you imagine going out on a night with Whitey Ford, Phil Rizzuto, and Mickey Mantle? The mischief they got into? Oh, Jesus God! They totally corrupted Mickey Mantle.
Yeah, tell him you got to tell him the Sam McDowell line. When the reporter asked sudden Sam McDowell, who's been a guest on our show, they said, "What's the hardest part?"
What did he say?
And he said, "Trying to explain to your wife why she has to get a penicillin shot for your arthritis."
What?
So he says, some of the things on the road that happened, and you had mentioned Whitey Ford and Mickey.
Oh, man.
We've had Sam McDowell on the show before, and Sam is a recovering alcoholic. He goes, one of the toughest things to ever tell a reporter is why you have to get a penicillin shot.
They asked him, "What's the hardest part of being in the big leagues?"
Yeah, What's the hardest part about being in the big leagues is having to tell your wife that you need a penicillin shot for the arthritis.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, here's the story. If you read Joe Pepitone's book, Joe, You Could Have Made Us Proud. So supposedly he was a pothead, Joe Pepitone, smoked weed. And supposedly Mickey says, "Well, what's that stuff there?" And so Mickey took a few hits on this and he got stoned. And he was going up to bat. And they said, if you see Mickey, when he would strike out, he would not be happy. He was not a happy character if he struck out. So he's sitting there. I forget who was on the mound. And Mickey's sitting there. And he just goes like the bat. He's going like this. And he's like smiling. He's just like, the bat. And he strikes out. And they said, when he's walked back to the dugout, he goes, "I'm going to kill you, Joe, one day." They got him stoned, but he was such like in the like a little haze. And when Mickey Mantle was not, am I right, Bob? He wasn't happy when he struck out. He'd get pissed, and he was just like lilting back. But he said to Joe Pepitone, he said, "Next time you do, I won't kill you, Joe."
Yeah, that's never going to happen again.
But they corrupted Mickey Mantle. He was a farmer from Commerce, Oklahoma. He was a hayseed
guy.
Billy Martin and Whitey and all those guys, corrupted him.
100%.
He never drank before, never did any of that stuff.
He was a small town from Oklahoma, and he was very shy. He was shy.
He's a real shy kid from Oklahoma. Country strong, as you mentioned earlier.
Frank, he was real country strong. He was a great athlete. You kidding?
Yeah.
My friend owned his house. My friend Tony owned his house in Commerce, Oklahoma, because I used to play in Miami. He goes, "Frank, let me bring you over there." Commerce. His father was like a miner, like copper miner. So I swear to God, I have pictures of it. I'll show it to Bob. I go in the house. If the house alone is 600, 550 square feet, I'm being generous. Okay. And like 5 people lived in this house. There was like a potbelly stove, like some kind of tub, nothing, wooden floors, nothing. So he goes, "Frank, go over here." So here's the barn where Mickey's father would stand there and make Mickey and throw balls at Mickey. And it's corrugated, like old corrugated. There's maybe 500 dents in it, where his father would stand out there and throw balls at Mickey for hitting. And the house. So he bought the house and he had it. I said, "You know what? Commerce is a real shithole. I mean, there's nothing there."
Yep.
I mean, you should really turn this into a museum. It was Mickey Mantle, one of the great baseball players of all time. But it's all intact. It's all intact. The barn, the shed where he used to throw the balls, and the house. You could not believe that 5 or 6 people lived in this house. I'm telling you, the whole house is smaller than my office. Like 1 bedroom, 1 room. It's amazing. Talk about humble beginnings.
Yeah. And what an amazing career. Hey, we want to be respectful of your time, Frank.
Okay.
I really, we've gone so much longer than what we really should have.
Well,
Bob, any final words that you can say? I'll relay them to Frank, but we want to say thank you to have him on. Love to have you on again. There's so many different things that we didn't even touch upon.
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
I still want to know, if we do have you back on, let's have a couple of your prize Les Pauls and Telecasters in the background, or an ES 335. Are you
I have an
kidding me?
ES 355.
Oh my gosh! Stop
Yeah,
it!
yeah.
Stop it! As a jealous player, I go that's everyone has a wish list of things that they really like to.
I've always been a Gibson and Martin guy. Martin acoustics.
Yes.
Gibson likes it. I do have Telecasters and a few Stratocasters, but my go-to guitar since the early 60s, I bought a Sunburst Les Paul. I traded it for a beat-up Fender Tremolux amp and an old beat-up guitar for a 58 Flame Les Paul Sunburst. That guitar would be probably $400,000 now. It'd probably trade it for like $150 worth of gear. And I fucking sold it for $400 in 1970 because I was broke.
Oh no!
$400 in 1970 would be equivalent to like $3,000. I was broke.
Yeah.
And I regret it to this day. And I had a Gibson Explorer I bought for $150. I worked all summer. And I went to the used part of the guitar store called Music City. And I was looking. A guy showed me a Stratocaster, all 50s guitar. And I opened this case. I go, what the hell is this? It kind of looks like a Firebird, but a trapezoid. He goes, $150. It was a 1958 mint condition Gibson Explorer.
Oh,
that guitar
would
go for $1 million now.
Yes.
Maybe 900,000. The case alone would probably be, that original tan case was probably $80,000.
Oh my goodness.
Easy.
Wow.
And I had it, and I traded it for a Rickenbacker 12-string. What an idiot. Those two guitars, I could have retired.
Yeah.
But being me, I probably wouldn't sell them.
Well,
I'm like a sentimentalist. I have guitars.
But you did sell them. You did, Frank. What are you doing? You had them in your possession. And
I was broke.
Yeah.
I was broke. It was 1970. I was 19 years old. I didn't have. You have to understand. I had no skills. If I wouldn't have made it music, what would I be doing? Working on a horse farm, like baling hay? I had no business skills. I barely got out of high school. So I would do jobs. I'd work on a truck. I, worked in a pet store, worked here. So if I wouldn't have made, now when I think about it, it's frightening. I had no skills to do anything. I mean, I love animals. Maybe I get a job at the zoo, sweeping out cages. So if I didn't make it in music, what would I do? My brother said the same thing. He goes, if Rocky wouldn't have happened, I'd just be just a knock around stand-in or character actor. Hoping to get a gig here and there.
From the neighborhood, right?
Right.
Gosh.
But when I think about it, sometimes I have nightmares. I'll wake up and go, oh my God, what if something didn't happen? But you have to have a faith in yourself that, look, at my age, maybe I didn't accomplish what I want. Maybe I didn't play the giant stadiums like I should have, like Bon Jovi and stuff. But I'm okay. I live in a nice place. I can do whatever I want to do. I don't have to. People go, aren't you jealous? You look at your brother's house. I go, no, I'm not. Because there's like maybe 1/8 of 1% of people in the world that live like that.
Right.
Okay? So, I mean, is it like a $60 million house? I said, no, because he earned it. He didn't get it. No one gave it to him. He got it. So I live in my place, but I'm doing better than probably 90% of the people out there or more. So I'm not kicking. I mean, but listen, other than having that lung problem I have, I'm in pretty good health. I mean, I'm in good shape. I can still sing. I can still act and do stuff. Am I going to get a studio picture? Probably not. Either one of the other actors. They're out there working. How many people? They're not even making that many pictures now. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Some people get it, and then some people become so big. And guess what? They become just as forgotten as the last person. How many people get to do a documentary on themselves? And did you see it? Huh?
The Stallone? Yes. Yeah.
You did see it.
It was great. I love the guitar you got back.
Look at all the people.
Bob said he loved the guitar that you got back after all those years.
Some guy died.
And it was all look at all the people.
Yeah.
All the friends I have.
Yes.
I mean, it's like it's a wonderful life. What's the most important thing in the world? What's a horrible, like these guys, all they did their whole life was make money. And then when they get old, they don't really have any friends. Or like when they lose their job as head of a studio, no one gives a shit.
And
I
my
was
dad
standing
used
outside El Pastillo once, and a guy walked down the street. I was with some chick. I go, "You see this old guy hobbling down the street by himself? No one's paying attention to him. He was one of the most powerful men in Hollywood at one time. He was the largest agent. He had all the big stars, and this was after the star system. So the studios had gone down. He could name his game. He could threaten the studios. Well, if you don't hire this person, you're not getting Paul Newman, or you're not getting this." I said, "Look at him now. Forgotten. No one gives Freddie Fields. No one gives a shit. He was married to Polly Bergen. But again, like Michael Ovitz, who ran CAA, no one cares. So, but the thing is, if you've had friendships and relationships and good buddies and stuff,
100%.
these guys don't have friends because
That's
people,
exactly right.
a lot of people didn't like them because they weren't nice to people.
Absolutely.
They were tyrants. No one liked Louis V. Mayer. They feared him, but they didn't like him. It wasn't like, "Oh man, let's go break a brewski with Louis V. Mayer." They didn't like him. They were controlled, but they had no choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could hold his
And there's
shoe
other people like Donald Trump. I've been around. I used to work for. I used to work as fun. He's funny as shit. He's fun. He's nice to everybody. He's polite to everybody. In business, yes. Is he tough? Yeah. But to be around him, he's great. He's polite. He's a gentleman. He's funny. He just says things off the top of his head that are. I was in the Oval Office with him when I sang at the Kennedy Awards, and he goes, "And here's the press. Everyone's there. Kiss, George Strait, my brother, for the Kennedy Awards." And he goes, "Now everybody, I want to point you to that room. That's the Monica Lewinsky Hospitality Suite." And fucking people just went crazy.
Yeah.
He just says whatever he wants to say, but he's funny. See, I find him funny. A lot of people, we have lost our sense of humor. It's like, does my smile confuse you? People go, "Oh, All in the Family, you could never show that now." Why? Blazing Saddles, you could never make that now. Why? It's a comedy. It's not real. You know what I mean? People have lost their sense of humor.
100% correct.
They take themselves so serious, and they're so thin-skinned that everything out there offends them.
Yep.
I think Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein and the Producers are some of the 3 funniest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I thought All in the Family was one of the funniest shows, but
hilarious.
They just can't understand. It's comedy. It's not real life. Like the creature from the Black Lagoon is not a real thing. Like, when Jim Carrey played the Grinch. There's no such thing as a Grinch. It's just a made-up thing by Dr. Seuss. Yep. So, but people are so thin-skinned and fakely sensitive. I said, "You're trying to tell me you can watch Blazing Saddles and you don't find that hilarious? It's so off the wall." Or like Young Frankenstein. "You're trying to tell me you can sit through that movie and you don't find it funny? Then, man, you need a heart transplant or something. You need a brain transplant." Because I think it's Mel Brooks to me. And then when he does the movies, Mel Brooks is a Jew. And he did the song Springtime for Hitler. He was in World War II. So if he can take it, why can't you take it? Why can't you just understand that it's just humor? Yeah. It's the same thing with music. Everyone takes themselves so seriously. It's funny when you read Marlon Brando's book or Ilya Kazan's book, you think it's going to be real deep and like, "Oh my God, man, I'm going to get inside his mind." And one of the great directors and actors, Marlon Brando goes, "I did movies to make money and get laid." That's what he said. So to Ilya Kazan, everyone thought it was going to be all this deep meaning and stuff. He goes, "Yeah, I like the acting, but I like the money and I like the chicks." So there you go. Okay. Arthur Rubinstein was a major womanizer. All those opera stars, you see him sitting there going, they were chasing. Arturo Toscanini was goosing girls, chasing girls all around. But he was the maestro. Him and Puccini had a fight because they were both sleeping with the same soprano, Geraldine Ferrar, and they didn't know it. Here you got 2 little guys, one of the greatest composers, Puccini, and the greatest conductor in a fight at the Met in like 1915. So things don't change that much. It's maybe it's delivered different, but crazy stuff's been going on forever.
Yeah, it certainly has. And we've had a thrill getting a chance to visit with you. And Bob, we know that you aren't able to be heard by Frank. But other than that, thank you.
Bob doesn't hear me talk?
No, Bob hears you. You can't hear Bob. That's what I'm saying.
No.
You can't hear Bob, but he's been trying to contribute. So we'll get that
But
fixed.
that's the whole thing, man. I love hearing
Frank,
Bob's
we'd love to
voice.
have you back and talk a little bit more about
I
this.
wish I had Bob's
music.
voice. I'd be one of the great announcers of all time.
Oh, absolutely. With those pipes, unbelievable.
See,
So
that's
we're
a
going to
gift.
say goodnight.
That's something we talked about genetics. He's just born with it. My friend Bill Baldwin, he was in Rocky 2, Rocky 3. Hello, this is Bill Baldwin for the Mario Lanza show. And he did the Edgar Bergen show. They're just born with that voice. Like Gary, what's his name? They just have that voice. Edward R. Murrow, they just are born with it. It's like sports, anything you do. Some people, you can't make a voice like Bob's. It's just you have it and how you use it. Like the great announcers, like all those radio shows, they had these great radio voices. You know what I mean? You're just born with it.
Rolling Thunder. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, listen,
Frank,
I'll let you guys go. Thank you for having me on. I know we almost went 3 hours, but you know what? What's time when you're having a good time?
When we're having a good time.
Right.
So we'll say goodbye to everybody. We want to say thank you for tuning in to 100 Yards of Football. This has been the Sports Page with Bob Case featuring Frank Stallone here today. I'm Harper LeBerl saying thank you for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate it. If you like the show, subscribe and tell a friend. We're going to have other great guests. And Frank, we'd love to have you back on again and absolutely finish this up. It's only been 3 hours.
But when I can hear Bob's voice.
Yeah.
Well, to everyone out there, it was my pleasure. Even though for the second half of the show, I couldn't hear my good friend Bob's voice. But I had so much fun. I love talking about everything.
Yeah.
I'm an information junkie. What can I tell you?
Absolutely. And your ability to, I'm not going to say regurgitate, but for you to assimilate some of the great things and to find a place where there's an importance for it, and not only in your lives, but in ours as well.
Hey,
Whether
Harper,
music, acting, and hold on, we're going to just say goodbye to everybody, Bob, real quick. And just thank you for tuning in, everybody. We hope you have